My girlfriend beat the shit out of someone who broke into her house. The other night I was sleeping over at my girlfriend. She lives one street over from the middle of nowhere, no street lights, no sidewalks, and keeps her house dark at night except for the room she's in to attract bats and detract bugs. I think it was like 2 a.m. when I woke up to my girlfriend telling me to call 911. Long story short, a guy had broken a window into the garage and was going through my car. He had a knife but my girlfriend has a shotgun, unloaded, and wanted to scare him off with it. Cops really gave us a verbal shakedown for that BTW, we're fucking idiots and don't ever confront a burglar. But this guy was clearly unhinged and charged us. I don't really remember how it happened but my girlfriend somehow tripped him, or maybe he tripped on his own, and then started basically tamping this guy's rib cage down into his lungs with the stock. I had to physically stop her. A little bit about my girlfriend, she cries when she sees sick or hurt animals. She's constantly doing or offering to do nice things for people. She won't even squish bugs, she catches them and releases them if she finds any. She's a Buddhist. Non-violence is important to her. Before this I described her as the gentlest person I knew, so what the fuck? After I stopped her she was so calm. She sat cross-legged on the floor and then made a call to a lawyer before the cops even got there. No charges for girlfriend, yet. Lawyer has been helpful, cops less so. They wanted to arrest me when they got there for some reason. And my girlfriend had to actually ask for an ambulance for the guy because they tried to just load him into the police car and he was screaming and moaning. He lived but is still in the hospital. It's been 2 days since this happened and I still feel like my heart is racing. Every time I see my girlfriend I see her covered in blood with a shotgun. It hasn't changed how I feel about her but goddamn. It's changed how I see her. Edit, clarifying a few things. I didn't think this would get any attention. First, girlfriend is doing good all things considered. Someone was worried that the blood was hers, the guy came in pre-wounded because there were bloody handprints on my car. He was definitely on something. My girlfriend is currently taking a bunch of drugs since she was exposed to his blood too. Girlfriend hasn't talked much about what happened and I'm not going to push her right now. I am worried about her, I am taking care of her. I've been staying with her since this happened. And feeding her. Someone said to bake a cake. I am a professional chef. Also, apparently, an idiot. After this I'm going to the store. A lot of people seem to think my view of her has changed for the worse. That is deeply untrue. Rereading my post I realize I made it sound that way so that's my fault. It's still pretty fresh in my mind and I'm processing things on the go. I was just having difficulty reconciling this new view of her with who I thought she was before, but I realize now that she hasn't changed, I just learned more about her. And what I learned is that she's a certified badass, to quote many of you in the comments. Also, a lot of people are calling me out for not helping more. Don't get me wrong, I feel guilty that I didn't do much other than call 911 in the moment. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for myself because I was still absolutely scared shitless, but my girlfriend didn't really give me a chance to help. This all happened very quickly. By the time she woke me up she was armed and out of bed. I'm deaf in one ear and a heavy sleeper anyway so I'm glad she woke me up at all. I'm not sure why the shotgun wasn't loaded. She only told me afterwards. I was expecting her to shoot him, not beat him half to death. The cops, I won't get into it but my girlfriend has had issues with the local cops before. She lives in a town that barely qualifies for its own police department, and the one they do have has nothing to do 99% of the time. They seemed like they were in a rush to get finished with us the whole time they were there. I think they were probably pissed off they got called out on 4th of July for something that actually requires paperwork. Thank you everyone in the comments. I've read every single one of them so far. There's a lot of good advice there and a good amount of deserved criticism that I am open to. How else do you improve? Comments. Commenter 1. She went into fight response. None of us know what we would do when our lives are in danger until they are in danger. Good for your girlfriend. Feel good you have a badass woman. Commenter 2. Your girlfriend went into flight or fight mode and clearly she is a flightless bird. Good for her, hope y'all are doing okay now. Commenter 3. Clearly she is a flightless bird. Saving that one. Commenter 4. Fight or flight is a real thing, OP. Her fight instinct kicked in, and she took care of business instead of being a victim. I think you should bake her a cake. Commenter 5. Hey OP, also don't jump scare her. Commenter 6. I laughed until I realized that you have a very valid point. Update. I don't know if anyone remembers me but a while ago my girlfriend and I had a home invasion incident that culminated in her beating the shit out of the intruder. I'm tired of saying my girlfriend so I'm going to call her Diana. Turns out the guy was a drug addict from the next town over. He was in his 60s and he had an extensive history in jail and mental hospitals. Unfortunately, about 2 months after my post, he passed away. We didn't know anything about why until we got a chance to talk to his sister, who insisted she didn't blame Diana and that the doctors even said that he probably didn't have much longer anyway. Diana was visibly distressed during this conversation, so I'm not sure whether or not the sister just said that to comfort her. After that, Diana went on a trip to a national park during a week she knew I couldn't take off and forgot her meds. She has seizures that look like mild psychosis, magical thinking, and ended up refusing to come home at the end of the trip. She kept saying that she felt like she couldn't leave the woods because she was certain there was something she needed to learn there that she hadn't yet, and when I asked her how long that might take, she said, "Some people take a lifetime." I asked if she was breaking up with me, and she said something about feeling like she was too attached to me, her house, her pets, etc., and that she needed to meditate on that for a while. I ended up going to her temple to see if anyone was willing to give me some perspective on the situation since she was seeing things through a Buddhist lens. It was the right choice. A monk actually drove the 6 hours out to her with me to talk to her in person since she wasn't picking up calls. I am so unbelievably grateful for that monk because Diana started taking her meds again and came home soon after. I've never been religious, but I started to read the Pali Canon afterwards and that shit slaps. Diana was already volunteering her time at the temple, so now we both go together when we can. All things considered, since then, things are back to normal and going well. We're both children of divorce, so even before all this we were doing prophylactic couples counseling every few months, and for a while after we were going once a week. Diana has started seeing a therapist on her own as well, which I am so proud of her for since she's always hated the idea of individual therapy. We also stepped up our home security game. Diana already had plenty of cameras, but now we have door window alarms and motion sensors. I also convinced Diana to get another dog, so now we have a 75-pound puppy. I know a lot of people were rooting for us to get married, but that's not going to happen. Legal marriage isn't something that interests us and it never has. But we did buy each other rings, and it's been a great comfort to have something physical to remind me of her on my person all the time. We're also considering having a small commitment ceremony next fall. Love. Thanks again for all the feedback on my previous post. I got a lot of great advice, and some good criticism. I showed it to Diana and she got a kick out of the comments, and we had a little mutual cry over how kind a lot of you guys were. I asked her if she was okay with me posting this update, and she clucked at me and told me to do whatever I want online as long as I'm being nice, and anonymous LOL. So, hope this qualifies. Comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like she has survivor's guilt. She should consider working with a therapist familiar with this issue. Reply. I don't think it's survivor's guilt, more like just standard garden variety guilt. She's had a tough time coming to terms with the fact that she killed someone, even if it was arguably the right decision. But yes, she is working with a therapist who is versed in Buddhism since the first precept, no killing any living being, is part of the reason she was having issues. Stories number 2. An update 4.5 years later, my husband is never, ever sorry. I don't know if this is a terribly small problem, or if I'm just not seeing the larger picture, but this has been eating at me for years. I have been married to my husband, him, for almost 30 years. He can be kind and funny and generous. At the same time, there is one issue that bites and nibbles at me. He will never say he's sorry. The most recent example was this week, when our son bought groceries for his own lunch, only to discover later that his father ate it all. Not a big deal, of course. Son said he only wished his father had apologized. His father said he wouldn't and went on a tear about how he did all the grocery shopping, etc., etc. And yes, he does most of the shopping. And yes, it's a minor thing, but a quick, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was yours," is also a minor thing. If I wanted to count coup, I probably could, but why? We're family. We help each other. We apologize when we screw up. At the same time, he apparently does. My contributions don't count. Our son paying rent and running errands and doing work around the house doesn't either. I want to say this is him being frustrated by his job and COVID-19, but I'm all out of excuses and I'm tired of walking on eggshells. Part of me wants to book a flight to Alaska and disappear for a few weeks. Update comment. Hi, I'm the letter writer of this post. I recently thought of my letter and CA's reply and I thought I'd post an update here. So, I took the captain's advice, sort of. I replaced the ringtone for him with Brenda Lee's "I'm so sorry." My son did something similar and we had a good laugh about it. Life went on as before. Then, on Labor Day of 2022, I discovered my, now, ex had been cheating on me with dozens of sex workers and also with random guys. This had gone on for years, apparently. Talk about tip of the iceberg. Obviously, I divorced him. My ex claimed he was a sex addict and couldn't help himself. Our son talked him into getting therapy, but the ex quit after 3 sessions because it was too inconvenient. Since then, I've had lots of therapy and have rebuilt my life. I bought a condo. Remodeled it when and how I wished. Another long story. I spent over a year being so angry. I've let go of the anger, but for my own sake. As for my ex, he lives alone and continues to lead the swinger sex worker life he chose, but with less money. We actually have a polite relationship these days, and I call on him to do handyman work for me because, as I said, you owe me. Looking back over our marriage, I can see so many issues that I had either missed or ignored because things could be worse. Willful blindness, you could say. I am happier now than I've ever been, though the road to this point was not one I would have chosen. Oh, and this time, he actually did say he was sorry. Some of OOP's comments referencing X on other posts through the years. February 2025 comment, I once wrote to Captain Awkward and used the phrase, aside from this one really annoying trait, he's a great husband. Reader, I was so wrong. February 2025 comment, my ex was convinced that this one sex worker loved him. I asked if she still charged him for sex, and he got mad. February 2025 comment, my sex addict ex cheated on me with sex workers. He started off with a handful of visits here and there, but when he received a huge profit-sharing bonus from his employer, he went off the deep end and spent at least half with multiple visits a day. I found out all of this after the fact. Bonus is now gone. He no longer has access to my retirement funds or whatever other income one get. He still visits sex workers, but he doesn't have the funds to indulge as much as he used to. December 2024 comment, my ex created an almost second life for himself. We were married for 31 years, and for at least 10 years, he cheated on me with dozens of sex workers and random hookups at gay bathhouses. The time and energy and money he spent keeping these two parts separate was astonishing. In sub that does not like cross-posting, we call these people cake eaters. They want the stability marriage gives them, not to mention the work salary the spouse contributes, but they want the excitement of an affair, or in my ex's case, the fantasies he played with the sex workers. February 2024 comment, I found out one day that my now ex had been cheating on me for half our marriage. Not an affair, but lots and lots of sex workers. I was shocked. Our son was shocked. Ex was truly living a double life. I divorced him, of course. Now, a couple years later, we are on friendly-ish terms, but I admit I feel a bit of glee when he tells me he's bleeding money for utilities or house repair or whatever. He can't afford the sex workers as often as before, and he hasn't yet connected with anyone on the swinger lifestyle sites or the more ordinary ones. I sometimes wonder if he'll end up alone and lonely and broke. Ah well. As my son said, that's his problem, Mom. September 2023 funny comment, my ex has an Android. Didn't prevent me from finding out and him from meeting the consequences of his own actions. May 2023 comment, last September, I discovered my husband had cheated on me for years. Sex workers. Casual hookups. I filed for divorce. Part of me wishes I could have reconciled. He was my best friend, or so I thought, but he destroyed my trust. As we say over on, I miss the person I thought I had married. Whenever I miss him, I remember that he chose to cheat. February 2023 comment, my ex-Mil is such a lovely person. After I called, in tears, to tell her that her son cheated on me and I'd be divorcing him, she was nothing but kind and supportive. She told me I'd always be family. December 2022, my STBX offered to get counseling for his sex addiction and for our marriage. But he had so utterly destroyed my trust by all his lies that I knew I had to divorce him. Stories number 3. Wibta if I keep my ex's life insurance payout instead of giving it to his pregnant girlfriend. My ex and I were together for 7 years, and we got engaged 2 years ago. Around that time, we both took out life insurance policies, listing each other as beneficiaries. It made sense at the time cause we were planning a future together. Then, 6 months before the wedding, he cheated on me. I was devastated, but I forgave him because I didn't want to throw away 7 years of my life. I thought we could move past it. But 2 months before the wedding, he blindsided me. He left me for the same woman he had cheated with. I was completely heartbroken. I begged him to reconsider, but he told me he had moved on and that I should too. It took me a long time to heal, but I eventually accepted that he had made his choice. Over time, I worked on rebuilding my life. That was a year ago. I updated my own life insurance policy, assuming he would do the same. Then last week, I got the unexpected news that he had passed away suddenly. It was shocking, but what surprised me even more was getting a call from his sister. Apparently, he never changed his beneficiary, which means I am set to receive a $100,000 payout. Now his girlfriend, the woman he left me for, has reached out, asking me to give her the money. She's pregnant with his child and currently unemployed. She says the money should go to her and the baby because I am just his ex. I understand that this is a difficult situation, and I have sympathy for her child. But at the end of the day, this was his responsibility. He had an entire year to update his policy, and he didn't. I wasn't expecting this money, but legally, it is mine. I didn't take anything from anyone, it was his choice to leave things as they were. I don't think I should be obligated to give it up, especially considering how he treated me. This isn't about revenge or pettiness. It's simply about the fact that I was the named beneficiary, and I see no reason why I should be the one to fix a mistake that he made. That being said, I don't want to be heartless. I'm considering setting aside a small amount for the baby because none of this is the child's fault. But at the same time, I don't think I should feel guilty for keeping what was legally left to me. Stories number 4. Aita for threatening to kick my soon-to-be wife out of the house. My 30 years M and 27 years F fiance have been together for 5 years now. We are getting married in October 25th and we can't wait. We rarely get in fights arguments, but this really just made me frustrated. My soon-to-be sister-in-law, 36 years F, recently got a divorce and now has been staying with us for the last 4 months. At the beginning I was fine with it, stay here for a couple months, get situated and find a place of her own. That does not seem to be the same thought my 36 years F sister-in-law had in mind. She has not paid any bills, or any expenses. I'll come home from work and my fiance and her will be hanging out on the couch watching TV or having a girls' night every night. I rarely get any alone time with my fiance anymore other than sleeping together in the same bed. My sister-in-law has a full-time job, and makes decent money, well enough to afford an apartment. I got home from work last night and there they were just watching TV in the living room, eating takeout, didn't get anything from me, and I just blew a fuse. I said I had enough and that my sister-in-law is a grown woman and needs to get a place of her own. My fiancée stood up for her sister and said it's not fair. I then told her, then you can go too, and you guys can get a place together. Eventually I went to our bedroom and just laid in bed and eventually fell asleep. This morning my fiancée was sleeping next to me in bed. I got up, got ready for work and left. Aita for threatening to kick my fiancé out. What should I be prepared for when I get home? Should I apologize for freaking out? Comments. Commenter 1. Honest question. Over the last 4 months have you and your fiancé had discussions about a timeline for sister to move on, or have you been agreeable the entire time? If yesterday was the first time you seemed bothered, then yes, you may have approached it wrong by having your blow-up be the first indication that you were bothered. 4 months is a way long time to be crashing someone's place, especially if she has a job and can afford it, and no way would I tolerate an adult doing this to me without chipping in financially. But if this was the first time you expressed your aggravation with it, you might come off looking like the bad guy here. On the other hand, if you've discussed this with your fiancé several times and the ladies are just ignoring it, I think your outburst was justified. Good luck tonight. Commenter 2. Hey, wait a minute, you get the hell off of Reddit with your common sense and calm approach and sane suggestions and emotional awareness and reading comprehension and grammar and punctuation and shit. How dare you? Commenter 3. NTA. Just the fact that they didn't get you any food is BS. Commenter 4. LOL, you were a bit harsh, but overall NTA. In what world is it not fair for a 36YO to be expected to be able to either live on their own or at least contribute toward their living costs? Your fiancé enjoys having her sis there, totally understandable, but she should enjoy you more than the sis, otherwise why would you get married? I would apologize for how heated you got, but I wouldn't apologize for voicing your frustrations that have been building up. Your fiancé needs to choose who she wants to live with, you or her sister. When she answers that question you'll know what to do. Update. Hi all, I know a lot of you wanted an update for when I got home last night. To some surprise too, it seemed like most of you LOL we communicated and it went swell. When I got home they were both sitting at the table ready to talk. I spoke through my frustrations and build up energy, and SIL said I was extremely fair. I apologized first for acting like a child and not communicated from the very beginning of a plan for her. SIL apologized and gave her reasons, not excuses to my book. Details. She was in pain shortly after the divorce, wanted to be with her sister and I since it was the most comfortable situation. My fiancé apologized next and mentioned that she also missed the alone time we used to have, but was making sure she was there for her sister. For arrangements plans, SIL is now filling out applications for apartments and will be touring this weekend. She got us a full home deep cleaning service, and got my fiance and I massage gift cards. I did not ask for any of that. After we sat down and talked, SIL then went to the bar to hang out with some of her friends, then my fiance and I went out to get all-you-can-eat sushi, my favorite, and she paid to make up for last night's dinner's plan. We talked about everything and how we need to communicate more. We are looking to book a little long weekend vacancy for Memorial Day, and building out an itinerary. She is a vacation planner, so pretty easy, haha. All in all, everything seems to be more fluid now with all three of us. I truly am the for not doing this from the very beginning like most of you mentioned, and I'm glad I got some great advice from a lot of you. Comments. Commenter 1. Hey, the power of communication wins again. Congrats on owning your response and having a healthy conversation. Commenter 2. I agree, but really the situation shouldn't have gone as far as it did. OP's fiancé was torn between the two desires, and then fully invested in one and ignored the other. I'm all for helping people when they need it, but anybody with half a brain could have seen that he was being pushed into being the NPC in his own home. Stories number 5. Girlfriend just punched me in the face multiple times. So my longtime girlfriend just had an absolute meltdown after we left dinner from her parents' house tonight. It all started because her dad and I were watching old family videos and joking about how her and her sisters were dressed and just really light stuff about how big her great-grandpa's nose was. Her dad pointed it out and was like, dude, had a schnoz on him, and I laughed. That's all. I swear to all things holy. Fast forward to me driving home tonight and she turns off the music on the radio that I had turned on and starts trashing me about my family and how it's strange and creepy that I actually get along with my mom, dad, and sister. And have a drama-free relationship with them, and she can't stand it. So anyway, I'm reading my Kindle in the living room of my house and she goes off again, about some petty bullshit that I somehow did, and I'm reading a book. So I did what anyone else would do and just shut up and let her vent and get it out without giving her any ammunition to feed on wrong faking move. I took my eyes off her for a second to continue my read on the couch, and she gave me a three-piece so fast that it caught me off guard. I jumped up so she wasn't not on top of me. She proceeded to slap the taste out of my mouth. Then she blocks the front door and screamed for me to get away from her while blocking the only exit to leave. I'm in my boxers and I'm trying to grab my phone off the floor that went flying across the living room. And all I can hear is her yelling with the door open, trying to have the whole neighborhood hear this shit. Anyway, I'm now sitting in my car with just boxers on with a bloody lip, and I thought I asked the internet for advice, and by internet I mean Reddit. Stories number 6. I, F26, hate the ring my fiancé, M27, proposed with, and I don't know what to do. A wonderful thing happened this past weekend, which is that my boyfriend of 5 years proposed to me. It was extremely romantic and I couldn't have planned something better myself. I'm over the moon right now, except for one thing, my ring. When my fiancé and I first started to talk seriously about getting engaged, I told him that we could choose a ring together, or he could ask me questions about my preferences and look through my existing jewelry to get an idea of what styles of rings I like. He wanted it to all be a surprise, so he opted for the latter. I was a bit nervous because I can be picky when it comes to jewelry, but I trusted that he would have enough resources and knowledge to make a wonderful choice. The only guidelines I gave him were nothing pink, no blue sapphires, and no diamonds. As it turns out, I hate the ring. Not just in a, it's not really my style, but it'll grow on me, way, but in a, wow, this is ugly and I would never wear it, way. I feel absolutely awful for thinking this, but I can't help it. My issues with it: it's huge and gaudy. Like the sort of rings you see old women wearing. It's in the shape of a heart. I dislike heart-shaped jewelry, which is why I never owned any until now. It's amber. I'm a fan of light honey-colored amber, but this is way too dark. It's also extremely impractical to have amber be worn as an everyday ring. It's going to become scratched and dull very, very quickly. I just don't understand why in the world he picked this ring out for me. It's not my style at all, and it's clear he didn't do any research. If he had, he would have known amber was a poor choice. I'm actually rather hurt by his choice because, to me, it shows a lack of care on his part. The worst part of all is that I have no clue how to broach the subject with him. He and I share everything with each other and have no secrets, so it's doubly hard on me to not only dislike the ring, but to also not be talking to him about this problem like we do with everything else. How can I bring this up without hurting him? I want him to know I love him deeply and that I'm so happy to be engaged, but that the ring needs to be changed. I'm freaking out and need advice badly. Thank you. TLDR, new fiancé picked out an ugly, impractical ring. How do I talk to him about getting a different ring without hurting his feelings or coming off as shallow? Edit. There's a picture of the ring in my comment history. I can't post a link directly in the OP due to this sub's rules against pictures. Picture of the ring. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. If you're going to spend the rest of your life with this man, you'll need to get comfortable with awkward conversation. Just frame it up as you're worried about the stone's ability to wear for the rest of your life, and you want something you can wear every day. Go together and pick out a new one. I'm sure he tried. Reply. We have had many awkward conversations before, believe me. This is a whole different ballpark because of the extremely sensitive subject matter. Even if I frame it in terms of why it's simply impractical, it still doesn't solve my hurt feelings and confusion of his choice. To a deleted comment. Why is it wrong to be hurt? He completely ignored my tastes and preferences on a ring that I'm intended to wear for the rest of my life. It honestly feels like he pulled a ring out of a hat and thought, I guess this is it. When I get him a gift for his car, I do tons of research, ask his friends for suggestions, etc. He obviously didn't put the same thought into this gift to me, and that hurts. OOP replying to someone saying it's hard for men to pick rings. I literally offered to pick it out with him. He didn't have to make the choice alone in the first place. Even with his choice to make it a surprise, he wasn't clueless. He knew what things I didn't like and he knew what I did like by looking through my jewelry collection. He could have talked with my mom or sister to get their opinions on what styles I'd like. He didn't do the research though, and that's why I'm sort of hurt. It seems thoughtless. Update. I was not expecting yesterday's post to be so popular and I was overwhelmed at how many people responded. In spite of the loads of, damn, OP wasn't lying about the ring, or, what a shallow bitch, comments, I want to thank you those of you who did give me ideas of how to discuss this very difficult topic with my fiance. After he arrived home last night and we had dinner, we got onto the couch to cuddle. I knew it was the best time to talk about it, so I started off by telling him how ecstatic I am to be married to him and how much I loved the proposal. I then launched into my main point and said, I'm so sorry to do this, but we're going to have to pick a different ring. The amber is going to get destroyed in no time and the ring is just too big for my hand. I kept banging it into everything today as is. It's just an impractical choice in the long run. He immediately looked like he was about to cry, which made me feel terrible. He put his head down and said, you don't like it. Just be honest. I admitted that the impracticality of the ring was a very real issue, but that I also didn't like it. I said, I'm kind of confused why you picked it because it's nothing like the rest of my stuff and it's absolutely massive. By this point he was crying and said, that's the point, I wanted something completely different. All your rings are so plain. I wanted the ring to stand out so everyone would see it and know I love you. I had figured that this was his line of thinking, others guessed as well. I told him that I understood where he was coming from and emphasized that I am so thrilled to be engaged, but that I want the ring to be something that I will like. After all, it will be on my finger for the rest of my life, and that the material needs to be durable in order to stand the test of time. I explained to him how delicate amber is, which he didn't know. He said he picked amber because he liked that there were things inside of it. I asked him if he had thought about what he wanted in a ring before he had bought it. When he said no, that he had just gone to the mall and picked one out, I started to cry. I hadn't planned on crying or telling him I was hurt, but knowing that he didn't research anything about rings or really think about it just really got to me. I tried to explain my hurt feelings as eloquently as possible, but I could tell he felt horrible for it. He said that the whole process really freaked him out and that he regretted not having me pick the ring with him. When it came time to pick, he was overwhelmed by ring choices and went for the most romantic thing he saw. We both cried a lot, needless to say. The talk was very productive though and it all ended up working out fine. Thankfully, he is the best guy I could ever ask for, just with really crappy taste in jewelry, which he now recognizes, so he wants us to pick a new ring together this weekend. TLDR, fiance picked a horrendous engagement ring for me, so bad it actually hurt my feelings. I told him I wanted a different ring. He was upset, but admitted that he didn't really put any thought into it, was overwhelmed. We're going to pick out a new ring together this weekend. Relevant comments. OOP replying to a deleted comment. Well, when we agreed that we wanted to get engaged, I offered to pick out the ring with him. He said no to that because he wanted it to be a surprise. So I let him look through my jewelry collection, roughly 25 rings, and told him a few things I definitely did not want. So he did have some idea. He just purposely decided to go in the opposite direction. Top comment. Commenter. Well, that amber ring was pretty horrible, but one thing it had going for it, it wasn't dug out of a grave. Glad it worked out for you, OP. Stories number 7. Aita for refusing to give my parents access to my savings. I, 28F, have been financially independent since I was 18. I worked through college, took on side gigs, and budgeted aggressively to build my savings. I didn't grow up with much. My parents always struggled with money, and I saw firsthand how stressful financial instability was. That's why I was so determined to create a safety net for myself. Recently, my parents found out that I have a significant amount saved. I didn't tell them directly, my younger sister let it slip in conversation. The moment they heard, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, they started making comments about how families should support each other and how they sacrificed so much to raise me. Then they got more direct, asking for money to pay off their debts and help with their mortgage. I love my parents, but they've never been great with money. They've always lived paycheck to paycheck, spending beyond their means and making impulsive financial decisions. They've taken out loans they couldn't afford, co-signed for family members who never paid them back, and spent money on luxuries while struggling to cover basics. I knew that if I gave them anything, it wouldn't be a one-time thing. It would open the door to them relying on me permanently. I told them no. I explained that I worked hard to build my savings and wasn't in a position to just hand over large amounts of money. They weren't happy. My mom started crying, saying she never thought her daughter would turn her back on family. My dad got angry, saying if I had enough to save, I had enough to share. They even suggested that if I didn't want to donate the money, I could at least give them a loan, though they had no actual plan to pay it back. When I still refused, things got worse. They started calling me selfish and ungrateful, reminding me of everything they did for me growing up. My sister has taken their side, saying I have more than enough and should help the people who raised me. Even extended family has chimed in, acting like I'm hoarding wealth while my parents struggle. But no one seems to acknowledge that I got here by being responsible while they made bad choices. Now, I feel stuck. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my family, but I also don't want to be treated like a walking bank account. Am I really the bad guy for wanting to keep what I worked so hard for? Or did I just finally see the truth that to my family, my value is only measured by what I can provide? Aita for choosing financial security over being treated like a personal ATM? Or did I just finally realize that to my family, love only goes as far as my wallet? Stories number 8. Aita for calling off my wedding after my fiance bought a house with his mom. Okay, so, me, 28F, and my fiance, 30M, have been together 5 years. We were planning our wedding for this fall and had been talking for years about our future, like kids, finances, and buying a house together. We had a whole plan to save up, find something we both loved, and make it our home. This was talked about a lot. Welp. Turns out he already bought a house. But not with me, with his mom. And he didn't even tell me he was looking. Apparently she found the perfect place and convinced him to split it with her because she didn't want to rent anymore. So now, instead of us planning our future together, he's financially tied to his mother, who's going to be living there full-time. I just stared at him like WTF. And when I asked where I fit into all this, he goes, "Oh, well, you can move in too, of course." Like I'm supposed to be thrilled to live in a house his mom picked out, partially owns, and is just there all the time. He also admitted he did it because I was taking too long to save and his mom offered him a faster way to own something. I was so shocked and pissed, I told him I needed space. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I can't marry someone who thinks this is normal. So, I called off the wedding. And now his whole family is blowing up my phone saying I'm being dramatic, that it's just a house, and that I'm overreacting because we can still live together. Even my own parents are saying canceling the whole wedding is extreme. Like, am I losing my mind? Aita, or is this a giant red flag? Stories number 9. Fiance doesn't want to introduce me to her friends or interact with them. So my fiance, girlfriend, aged 32 doesn't want me, aged 28M, to talk to her best friends at all before marriage. We have been dating since the last 2.5 years, and those 2.5 years has been mostly public. Public in the sense that both me and her like to post pictures or reels of ourselves from vacations or times together, and we were very clear that we were in a relationship on Instagram. However, she doesn't have many real-life followers from office or personal life on her Instagram. She has around 7 or 8 really good friends who she meets on a regular basis and one cousin. We are both matured adults and decided to get married in the coming year in 2024 November or December since we started dating. So I thought it would be better if I introduced her to my family too last month, so I took her consent and decided to meet with my family at a good restaurant in the city. My family got to know her and they liked her and decided to fix the date for our wedding. But my girlfriend said it would be too early for her to get married this year, so we eventually decided to fix the marriage date for February 2025, 6 months from now. Usually in my city, it's a requirement to book the marriage halls early enough so that you get a proper hall. So I took her consent and discussed with my family and booked a hall for marriage. Few days later she also went and booked a hall for her side of the party. It is normal to have parties from both bride and groom's side in our culture. Basically so far I have made her meet my family and one female friend of mine who lives in a different town with her BF, and both of the meetings were proper well-planned meetings. She also met maybe another friend of mine, accidentally, in the mall. I however have never met her friends in that manner. Only once or twice I met some friends by accident as I was driving my girlfriend somewhere, and 2-3 of her friends also hopped in and we just spoke a few words as we traveled in the car. But her friends were aware that we were dating, of course. Now a strange incident happened last week which left me really confused. It was a text from a friend of hers on Instagram. Before this I had never spoken to this friend of hers except for only once, a year back, when my girlfriend wasn't talking to me as we had a fight, and so I texted this friend of hers and asked her politely to talk to my girlfriend once as she is a good friend. She said okay, I will surely talk. And also I texted her friend only because I felt my girlfriend back then was going through a lot of things and probably she would need a friend to discuss properly as she had a huge financial loan etc., and even had a fight with me and her family for some reasons. Shortly afterwards I got a call from my girlfriend regarding me DMing her friend on Instagram, and she asked me very angrily to never talk to her again. To which I was surprised, but I complied as our relationship wasn't so stable back then and I gave her space to settle. And after a while that day, I got a message from her friend saying hey sorry I can't help you in this, and she blocked me on Instagram. I was okay and didn't react back etc. So this was last year's incident. Now this same friend texted me suddenly last week as she was not able to reach my girlfriend over call and she was tensed as what was going on. I politely replied back saying hey she's alright, probably busy with office work, I will inform my girlfriend that you are trying to reach her. I called my girlfriend and said her friend called, to which she was like oh lord what, why does she have to text you, please block her on Instagram. I found it very weird to block that friend and immature at the same time. So I told her I won't, so my girlfriend told me that if I want then her friend will. Few moments later I saw I was again blocked on Insta by her friend. Actually this time around it made me a little angry and I ended up texting her on her other Insta handle and told her, hey how are you doing, I didn't like what you just did and this is not a very respectable way to talk to someone. I also wrote, if your husband has some self-respect he should also not text my girlfriend when you guys are having issues. Then she replied saying hey my husband, me and her were in her life much before you came to her life. After which I politely explained that I didn't mean to break their friendship and only wanted to make their bond better and just felt disrespected for being blocked twice when I wanted to just talk to them once or get to meet them. So she didn't reply to this and informed my girlfriend, and my girlfriend again came out angrily and was very angry with me as I referred her friend's husband. I felt that was the only logical way to express myself. I was serious about her and made her meet my family and friends. She had no family members, her parents also passed away and cousins live in other countries or far away now, but her friends would be the ones who would be present at our wedding from her side. So I expected her to take me a little more seriously and maybe not ask her friends to block me, at least on Instagram. She often visits this female friend's house and sometimes they have sleepovers and sometimes even parties with this friend and her husband in their house, birthday parties or some other reason. I never got to properly go out or meet any of her friends in an official go out meet kind of sense. I expressed her a couple of times that your friend brings her husband and baby along in group meetings sometimes, so maybe I can also go along and meet them once. But she is strictly against this, and this has blocking incident recently is seriously bothering me. My girlfriend says my ex-boyfriends had bothered my friends earlier as well and I don't want these things to happen again. But this probably would have made sense to till maybe like a year back, but now we are gonna get married in 6 months, even now she's hesitant and says she will introduce me to them only after marriage. And also when she gets married these friends will probably have to help her make her side of the arrangements duties as she has no one else. So I needed to talk to them as well for our upcoming wedding preparations. I haven't spoken to my girlfriend since last 2 days because of this, and she also is saying she is unsure of the marriage now after I expressed this desire to meet her friends, and she says that I will be controlling in nature in the future. I feel she will text me or call me back soon. Am I asking for the right thing by asking her to introduce me to her friends? What should I do? TLDR, my fiance doesn't want me to meet or interact with her friends, even on social media, but we have already dated 2.5 years and I made her meet my family 2 months back and also my friends. My girlfriend often visits her best friend's house and sometimes they even drink and party, and her friend's husband is also around, obviously in the house. My fiance also does same sleepovers or alcohol parties with another friend couple of hers who are not yet married. I find it weird because she never lets me interact with her friends and even made a friend of hers block me last week because she texted me. I have raised this concern with my fiance and said I think I should get to know your friends at least once now that we have wedding in 6 months. But she is reluctant and says I can only meet them after our marriage. What do you think I should act next? Am I correct? Comments. Commenter 1. They clearly have dirt on her that she does not want you to know about. Do yourself a favor, break off the engagement, end the relationship and buy that one-way ticket out of crazy town. Commenter 2. You are in a sitcom plot. It will only end badly unless you stop with the sitcom antics. Do not marry this woman. Update. So few days back I, 28M, posted about how my girlfriend, 32F, asked one of her best friends to block me on Instagram. It's not been long since the blocking incident, but today I just got surprised to learn that my girlfriend's mother, who she always has been referring as dead, is not really dead. So few weeks back the girl, her best friend, who is already married with one kid, just texted me to know the whereabouts of my girlfriend as she was not able to reach her. My girlfriend, on knowing that, instantly asked me to block her and I refused, but she then made that best friend block me and the rest of the story is already there in the previous post. Since then I was not able to trust her. My girlfriend has always been telling me that there is no one in her family. She said she was a single child and both her parents have passed away. She used to go to her countryside home every 3 to 4 months to visit her aunt, who she said was the only person living there, but it always seemed a little off. And every time she used to go there she used to stay for at least 2 to 3 days. There were other things which seemed off too, like whenever she used to get a phone call, her contact name used to show as Dad Home, and a lady used to speak from the other end who she always used to refer as her aunt. My girlfriend has already met my parents and we were supposed to get married in the coming February. My parents were hesitant about our marriage because they also didn't like this secrecy and the fact that my girlfriend asked her best friend to block me. I just thought it to be generational differences and was trying to make my parents understand that maybe it's not that big a thing. But still my parents didn't like this relationship, and one day last week, they just went near my girlfriend's office and asked a colleague of hers if she knew about her parents. But that colleague didn't know a lot about her family. I know this was not a right thing to do by my parents, but probably they could look at the suspicious things from an outsider's perspective and they just wanted to keep me safe. I tried to make them understand later that it's wrong to take these things in the professional space. They agreed not to ask there again, but also urged me to do proper research before taking a step towards marriage. So, I also tried to ponder upon my parents' POV and the whole situation from an outsider's perspective, and it was all making me grow impatient. My girlfriend just wouldn't let me talk to any of her friends or relatives or follow them on social media. And the reason she used to give for not introducing to her family was that her family would never approve of her marriage, as intercaste and intercommunity marriages are still not quite accepted in some parts of India. But she always used to say how open-minded her parents were and that her whole upbringing was very modern, etc., and used to cuss my family for being suspicious and backward, etc., and she also used to say if her parents were alive today, they would have definitely come for the marriage. My parents liked my girlfriend initially when they met her first time and were very happy about the marriage. My father even offered to sponsor the marriage expenses for her side as she wasn't doing great financially. But they got suspicious when she even made her best friend block me. So all these combined made me very suspicious, and I decided to visit her countryside village house today just to check. I went there acting I was looking for someone else, and when I knocked the door, her mother came out. I know it was her mother because my girlfriend showed photos of her mother to me earlier. It was truly like encountering a ghost. She looked like a fit and fine woman with a smile on her face and just looking like my girlfriend. My girlfriend and I are not talking properly since the day my parents went to her office. She called my parents crazy and whatnot for doing such a thing and was angry and said people of my community are clever, cunning and crazy and do suspicious spying on people, but never accepted that she said such a big lie to our family. And while I admitted to her that it was wrong to ask at her office, but it's not right for her as well to talk like that about my family when she was acting all suspicious, asking friends and family to block me and faking her mother's death. I haven't spoken to my girlfriend about this, and what should I make out of this really? This was a very huge lie and I don't see a valid reason for this either. Her father, as I confirmed from locals nearby, had actually passed away and her mother was living there with her aunt who was living in a different house just on the adjacent block. I just want to know if there could be any valid reason or judgment that can be applied to this scenario because I can't think of any. Her mother looked fit and fine to me. Roughly around 50 to 60 years of age. TLDR, my girlfriend asked her best friend to block me on Instagram, claiming her parents were dead and only her aunt was alive. However, I discovered her mother is actually alive and living in her countryside home. This, along with other suspicious behavior, has led to trust issues. Now, I'm unsure how to proceed, as my girlfriend refuses to introduce me to her family and has been dishonest about significant details. Comments. OOP includes additional details in comments. Yeah, my friend, even I also thought about these things when I first found out her mother was alive. I am Bengali and she is Assamese. My girlfriend is very confusing at times. She has good sides of her too, like her love for animals, but she hates on Bengalis. I was always scared of that side of her and never really knew what to do. When I look back, I remember very fond memories of us together. She was a huge fan of animals and always used to rescue injured animals. She has injured pigeon, injured cat and 6 birds right now in her apartment. So this paradox is so killing me with doubt on my inside. She had very good sides of her and then very suspicious sides of her as well, which are quite scary. We have terrorist outfits in Assam and I'm scared if she was even a part of one, although I never got any proof of it. I really don't know. Because a friend of her, the couple friend, was also linked to taking people's money in the name of high returns and not returning it. And that friend once took some of my girlfriend's money as well and didn't return, so my girlfriend told me she and that friend had a bad fight and didn't talk for 1 year, but just 2 months back my girlfriend started talking to that friend again suddenly. So these things are quite suspicious about her. The logical side of my brain is telling me just because she liked animals, doesn't mean she loved me. She used to say how the dog was so good. It used to stay the way she kept it and never complained like humans. But then I said that's because it's a dog and not human, and humans will have a say, always likes dislikes, and I was very friendly when I tried to explain her this, but she said yes, that's true, but I like animals the most. I don't know exactly who is she. Commenter 1. How you should proceed is fucking run. Huge red flag. Nothing but a can of worms from here on out. Commenter 2. She's probably already married and has ran off from her husband or having an affair, hopefully get an update soon. Commenter 3. Ghost her and don't bother talking to her anymore. She's a pathological liar and can't be trusted. She purposefully edged you out of all her circles and refuses to let you in. Chances are she's already married and or you're the side guy. Commenter 4. It's over. How could you ever trust her with anything after this? Look, I am sure you are a nice person, but this is many, many huge lies from her. You need to seriously wake up. Talk to your parents. Figure out a plan. But the marriage can certainly not go forward. Update 2. So it's been a month roughly. I posted my question about the weird behavior of my fiance and her lying about her mother being dead. Today I thought of posting a small update regarding the entire situation because a lot of you have been asking me for this. After discovering that her mother was still alive, I was shocked for a few days. But gradually, I started to feel better, although I was still eager to understand if I had done anything wrong, especially because I had seen both the good and bad sides of her. Now that some time has passed and I can think more clearly, though I do miss her at times, I reflect on what I know about her. She is someone who is naturally very compassionate and has shown great kindness towards animals, adopting or helping several street animals during the 3 years we were together. I've seen her experience happiness, sadness, and vulnerability. I've seen her good sides, but she has also been very harsh in her feelings towards my community, language, my parents, and even me. She clearly did things that were wrong, like discouraging interaction with her friends and lying about her mother being dead, among other things. Also, she lied to me another time in the past, which I consider the second biggest lie after the story about her mother's death. This happened one night when she arrived in my city a day earlier than planned from her village home. I found out because I had been calling her repeatedly. She said she wanted to surprise me, but we didn't end up meeting that day because she asked me not to come over, claiming she was tired and feeling unwell. Later that night, I called her multiple times, but she didn't pick up. The next morning, I went to her flat and discovered she wasn't there. A few hours later, she called me from a friend's phone and explained that she had gone to her friend's house because her friend's boyfriend had come to stay, and the watchman wouldn't allow another guy in the flat. So, they pretended to be family relatives to cover it up. I forgave her for lying that time and chose to trust her again. In hindsight, it was another significant lie, the second biggest lie during our entire relationship, the fake mother's death still being the first. About 7 or 8 days ago, I noticed her repeatedly posting WhatsApp updates about how she was treated badly by me, how she was subjected to loneliness, and how I broke up with her. During that time, I attended a party with some guys and girls, and I saw her posting stories that directly defamed me, even though we had already broken up and I had every right to socialize with whomever I wanted. That day, I messaged her after seeing her status updates, partly because I was angry about what she had posted and partly because I wanted to know the real reason behind her lie about her mother's death. She responded with a lengthy message, but to summarize, she listed the following reasons. 1. She said she lied about her mother being dead because her mother never got her due respect in the past relationship. Her ex probably never let her stay at her mother's village house for more than 2 days. 2. Her ex-BF was roaming around in the city with other girls and probably even cheated on her while her mother was in the hospital. 3. She thought her mother would get proper respect if she lied about her mother being dead like her expired father, who is treated respectfully after his death according to her. None of the reasons she gave seemed serious enough for me to believe. I pointed out that about 90% of her reasons were related to her ex-boyfriend and asked her why she had to lie about her mother, especially since I had always been supportive regarding her family issues. I told her that her explanations didn't make any sense to me at all. She later told me I was wrong to say she has narcissistic personality disorder. I told that to her once earlier because she never feels sorry and does gaslighting to hide her own errors, etc. And I read online that this could be symptoms of NPD and asked her to get expert help on this. She said she had consulted a psychologist who diagnosed her with CPTSD, which can cause narcissistic traits at times. Even so, I don't see how that justifies creating such a complex story about her mother to deceive both me and my parents, even going as far as to give a specific date for her mother's death anniversary. She was also upset with my parents because they found the whole situation suspicious and started asking questions. Although I feel bad and believe she may be dealing with some behavioral disorders, I also suspect there is a deeper, more complex secret, whether it's hers or her family's, that has led to all these stories. In my last conversation with her, I made it clear that, regardless of what she says, we are not in a position to restore the marriage. I don't want to hurt her by doubting her, nor do I want to hurt myself. Trust is something that cannot be rebuilt after everything that's happened, so I asked her to just tell me the truth. However, nothing substantial came from her that I could consider. So, that's the update. I've decided to move on with my life without her, as there's no way forward in this situation. TLDR, my girlfriend has not been able to give a proper valid reason for faking her mother's death for 3 years, and I've decided to move on with my life without her, as there's no way forward in this situation. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you for moving on. Also, WTF are those excuses? I don't think any of them made sense. Commenter 2. She's still lying when she tries to cover up previous lies. Seriously, she said her mom was dead to make you respect her mom more. WTF. What in the chicken fried type of nonsense is that? In the end, who cares about why she lies? She's a POS and you're better off without her in your life. Stories number 10. My cousin is dying and today he'll find out I do not forgive him. We were close friends when I was younger, between 20 to 25, he's 5 years older. I trusted him. He raped me while I was drunk, unconscious. I didn't talk to him much after that, only at his father's funeral, and my dad's 70th birthday, trying to act normal. No one knows what he did 15 years ago, well I guess my dad knows now. My dad called me on Friday, letting me know he's not well and my parents and brother will visit him today, one last time. Asking me if I wanted to join them, I said let me think about it. Yesterday I told my dad no, I will not be there because cousin did something I can't forgive. My dad's the best. I saw his face change but he didn't ask or press for info. He said he understood. It did rip open an old wound. Honestly, the guy's been dead to me for so long. I buried what happened in the back of my mind. Kind of blamed myself for being dumb enough to get so drunk and trusting someone to not take advantage. Now I realize this wasn't my fault. Today he will figure out I do not forgive him and never will. He will rot in the ground and I will spit on his grave. Stories number 11. Aita for not supporting my partner's desire to be a Som when I supported my ex's desire to be a Som. I, 44M, have been dating a woman, 35F, for 2 years. I have 3 kids, 18M, 16F, and 14M, from a previous relationship. My girlfriend has none. We have discussed moving in together and starting to have kids, both of which I fully support. But, she is now indicating that she would want to be a Som. She mentioned it for the first time last week and I guess I made some facial reaction. She asked me what was wrong and I downplayed it. Last night was our weekly date night. I was just completely honest with her about my feelings on it. I generally do not like either parent being SAH. I think parents who are SAH are high risk to lose themselves in their kids. I think it is generally better for kids to spend time around other kids who are not family. It creates a social financial dependence of the SAH parent on the other parent, and it can create guilt for the working parent if they express they are unhappy. She brought up the fact that my ex was Som for 8 years. I told her I was young and stupid and I would never agree to such an arrangement now. Plus, financially my ex being SAH made sense because she did not make enough to justify the considerable cost of child care. That is not the case with my girlfriend who is an engineer with a PhD. She brought up that we could easily afford to live our life on my income alone, which is true, but I still oppose it for the reasons I outlined. Well, as you can probably guess, she is pretty pissed off that I am completely opposed to the idea and our date ended on less than good terms. So, I am wondering if there is something I am missing. Aita has no consensus bot. OOP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments. Is OOP done with having any more kids? Reply, I have no objection to having more kids. I am exponentially better off, financially and physically, now than when my kids were young. Commenter 1, YTA you can't expect her to want to pop out kids and then go back to work, so she can pay money out the ass for someone else to bond with her children, and watch them grow up while she grinds and then probably ends up coming home and doing all the cleaning and cooking in addition to paying. The real reality is that you have 3 crotch goblins from a previous relationship and you probably pay child support and have to come up with money for college, which is gonna be impossible. You don't have money to get together with a younger woman and give her the life she deserves. You're wasting her time. Odds are you don't even really want more kids and are just using up her pretty years and running out the clock, hoping she'll be your little breadwinner and bang maid. You won't support her being a som not because you don't believe in it, your reasonings are BS and trash, but because you literally can't afford it. Reply, what? First, I do not pay child support. Second, all 3 of my kids have college funds that will fully pay for their college. Third, any additional kids I have would get the same. Commenter 3, we're not passing laws here, for crying out loud. We are pointing out that OP was not the primary parent or partner in charge of household maintenance for his first trio of kids and is proposing to effectively start his family over at almost 20 years older than when he had his first child. He's not going to have the same energy that he did at 26 and he's now insisting his wife should work, which will require him to step up as a parent more not less. The commenters are trying to point out that he's in danger of being hideously unfair not only to the woman he wants to make his second wife, but to their prospective kids, too. Reply, first, when my kids were young, I was working 60+ hours as a young lawyer whose schedule was completely dictated by my boss. I also weighed more than 300 pounds with a number of health conditions like sleep apnea that drained my energy. Still, even then, I did the bulk of the grocery shopping and cooking for the family, and paying for outside help was out of the question. Second, I now work less than 30 hours a week on average, weigh about 185, do not have any serious health conditions, dictate my own schedule, and can easily pay for any outside help that is needed. My ex moved 3 states away 3 years ago and I have been doing nearly all the parenting tasks since. I know my girlfriend working full-time means more required from me. But, I am physically and financially in a much better position to not just split parenting tasks, but to do the bulk of them. Commenter 4, having kids should be an enthusiastic yes by both partners or it should be a no. If you are perfectly happy having no more kids, how are you going to feel if the marriage doesn't work out and the kids are, for example 6, 3, and 1? More than that, how are you going to feel when your second kid with this woman turns 15 and you are 65 and wanting to retire and he or she isn't even out of the house yet? Reply, my ex and I both wanted kids, but we were both perfectly happy not having kids. Our marriage did not work out. And I am still incredibly grateful for it every day because of my kids. I plan on retiring in the next 5 years. If I do not have any more kids, my plan would be to foster some kids, like my parents did for years after my brother and I left for college. OOP on his girlfriend's goals of being a som. Reply, it is a recent desire of hers. She did not want this before, but now she wants it. She plans to focus 100% of her energy on being a mom, her words, until they are 5 years old at least. Beyond that, she does not have any specific plans for how she would function as a som. I proposed working part-time, starting a business, etc. She would get 15 weeks of maternity leave at her current job, another 4 weeks of PTO she could use, and after that, she would be entitled to FMLA leave, which is unpaid. And yes, this has all been verified with the employer. But, her plan would be to use the leave, then quit. OOP on where his ex-wife is now and why he has full custody of his kids. Did he spend time with his children when they were born? Reply, my ex moved 3 states away 3 years ago, so I had my kids full-time since because we did not want to disrupt their lives. I do all the parenting tasks for them currently. I work for myself and have pretty much complete control over my work schedule and generally where I work. You know, all the things I said in my earlier comment. What it looks like to me is being responsible for drop-off and pick-up, cooking, appointments, taking time off when they are sick, etc. I did at least 3 weeks of paternity leave with all my kids. Plus, when my youngest was born, shortly after, my ex had an infection and was hospitalized for almost 3 weeks. So, I was home almost 4 months that time. I know babies are different. I certainly do not have the extensive experience my ex has with dealing with babies and toddlers, but I do have exponentially more experience on that front than my girlfriend. My ex had another kid, 5F, but did not stay home with her for many of the reasons I outlined here. Update. About a month after my post, my, now ex-girlfriend and I spent the weekend together discussing all of our perspectives. She wanted to be a som a minimum of 5 years, she emphasized she may decide she wants longer, but at minimum 5 years. I proposed a compromise of doing it for 30 months and then seeing where we are. That was not acceptable to her. So, I told her we are incompatible and should break up. She was upset but understood. Around Valentine's Day, she reached out to me and said she can compromise on the issue. I told her I thought it was best that we remain broken up. This past week I got a very angry text message talking about how, "You wasted my time, you POS." I have officially blocked her. So, that is where things are. Top comments. Commenter 1, now would be a perfect time for a vasectomy. Your other 2 kids will be 18 in a few years. Commenter 2, I mean this is for the best. There's guys out there that wants basically a SOM and others that don't. There's little compromise on that and she should find someone that wants to support her. It was never going to end at 30 months or 5 years, the goalpost will just move on and you both will resent each other. Good luck. Commenter 3, never mind that her plan to take 5 years out of the game as an engineer would be intentionally self-sabotaging and make her very unemployable compared to others competing for any positions she would be half-heartedly applying for to re-enter the field. Commenter 4, you didn't waste her time. She chose not to be upfront with what she would want from this relationship. With every child the 5 years would be extended. Doesn't make sense that you'd want a second SOM when the first one didn't work out. Stories number 12. My 27M, girlfriend of 4 years, 26F, has recently become obsessed with a male streamer and I feel really uncomfortable about it. This is really embarrassing to even post about and I don't even know if my feelings about this situation are valid or if I'm just being a jealous boyfriend. So my girlfriend and I have lived together for 2 years now and it's great. She is admittedly my first girlfriend so I am a bit inexperienced but our relationship has been steady and happy and I was planning on proposing to her this year but my plans were squashed by current events. I know she wants to get engaged somewhere nice but traveling right now is not smart or feasible. My girlfriend lost her job back in July thanks to you know what and it really devastated her. It was pretty close to being a dream job for her so she took it really hard. She started panicking about finding another job in this market. I am really fortunate to have a well-paying essential job and minor debt, so I was more than happy to let her have a break for a few months. She was already getting kinda depressed from the quarantining, her job was work from home, and I thought letting her rest and recover for a bit would help, and she readily agreed and was super grateful. She really stepped up and the apartment was super clean and she was making delicious, elaborate dinners. Since it's just us two in a one-bedroom apartment, there's not too much mess between us so she still had a ton of free time. She became tired of all the stuff of streaming services and started watching more YouTube. Then her friends invited her to play a game with them and she got hooked onto it and started watching YouTube videos about it. I guess that's how she found this streamer. Let me tell you, my girlfriend's interests in video games before this was limited mostly to Mario Kart, so I was a bit taken aback by her suddenly watching Twitch and YouTube gaming videos 24/7. But I was excited for her to find a new hobby interest at first. Now everything is about this guy. She follows him on every social media platform and is either rewatching old streams of him when he's not streaming or she's watching him live. And this guy can stream for hours and hours at a time, mostly when I'm finally home from work and want to spend time with her. If I ask her to watch a movie with me, she'll keep an earbud in and still have him streaming on her phone, barely paying attention to the movie. She shows me a lot of clips from the streams that are funny and I guess I can see why she thinks it's fun to watch him, but I am getting really jealous of this guy. Her mood on the days he doesn't stream is always low and she acts really grumpy around me. She has paid money to become a subscriber, not sure how that works, and I confronted her about possibly sending him donation money but she assures me she hasn't, and she's pretty good with money so I like to think she's telling the truth. But at this point I don't know how I feel. I am scared to hurt her feelings, especially since she's finally seeming happier these days. I made a joke the other about how she likes him more than me and she got really offended by it, so I don't even know how to broach the topic with her. I don't want to control what she does with her free time, but I feel like this guy has replaced me. At the same time, I feel stupid being jealous of a guy that she is interested in and is semi-famous. It's not like she's his one and only fan. Am I feeling threatened for no reason? Or should I actually be worried about this? TLDR girlfriend lost job and has more free time now, found a streamer and became obsessed with him, but I don't know if I'm justified in feeling jealous. Top comments. Commenter 1. If I ask her to watch a movie with me, she'll keep an earbud in and still have him streaming on her phone, barely paying attention to the movie. Yeah, this is fucked up. Commenter 2. Op has to get a bit angry. Not over the top, but call her out on this bullshit. Something along the lines of, hey, are you serious right now? I thought we were watching a movie together. What are you doing? Like I wonder if OP called her out when she did this. If he doesn't, then she thinks it's okay. Commenter 3. It's Sakano, isn't it? He has that effect on women. And men. Commenter 4. That or corpse. Commenter 5. I was waiting for the mention of a deep voice or something because this is 100% corpse LMAO. Update. So here's an update. I read every comment on the last post, sorry for not replying. I got really overwhelmed by the feedback I was getting and I kinda shut down for a bit. I acknowledge now I really should have said something to her earlier before I let it get to this point. I posted that on Thursday and I was really lucky that he ended up not streaming on Friday. I told her that morning that we should be takeout from our favorite place and have a little date night. She seemed really excited. I picked the food up, came home, and she was watching old clips, but I was able to get her off her phone and we had a nice time together. I then asked her if we could talk and she agreed. I basically told her that I was hurt by how she hasn't been paying as much attention to me since she started watching him and that I was also worried about her mental state because a lot of people had mentioned she might be depressed. She apologized for the whole movie incident but she really denied that anything was wrong mentally. I told her I would even pay for therapy if she needed it or to at least try it but she said no. She ended up really grumpy at me and went to bed early, so I guess I messed up that conversation. I felt so bad about how that night went that I wanted to make it up to her and plan a better date night for Saturday. I went out and got some stuff to set it up. When she woke up the next morning I told her we were going out tonight and she seemed excited when I told her it was a surprise. While she was cooking dinner, I went out to my car and decorated it for Christmas. Bows and lights on the inside, I had a stash of Christmas candies and chocolates, cozy blankets. We had dinner and then she got to the car and was super excited. We went and picked up some hot chocolate, the music was playing, and I had a whole route of the best Christmas lights planned along with a grand finale of the big local drive-through lights. We had a great time for about 30 minutes until a notification popped up on her phone that he was live. Then everything went downhill. She started watching him and I asked her to please be present with me. She told me this was a really interesting stream idea they were doing and I started getting really frustrated. She was missing the lights to watch him playing Minecraft. I pulled over and told her that either she puts the phone away for the rest of the night or we are going back home since she didn't want to be present on our date. I told her she could always watch later, the recording will be there. She doesn't need to watch live. I did get angry and raised my voice which I shouldn't have because she started crying. I felt like an asshole so I just silently drove us back to our apartment and she locked herself in our bedroom. I sat on the couch all night and I came to the conclusion that my feelings had been hurt one too many times. Maybe I didn't give her enough chances, but the pain was overwhelming and I decided we needed to break up. For years, gone like that. She woke up and I told her as calmly as I could that I would not be the third wheel in our relationship to a streamer and that she needed professional help. She freaked out, begged me to reconsider. I told her I didn't see the relationship being salvaged at this point but maybe if she gets professional help, finds a new job, and stops watching him so obsessively it might. She sobbed and threw a bag of her stuff together and left to her parents' house. Her dad called me screaming and I tried to explain what happened but he didn't get it. She texted me saying she'll come get the rest of her stuff after the holidays. So yeah. I guess it's over. Maybe I didn't give her enough chances to fix her behavior and we might reconnect if she takes what I said to heart, but at the moment I just can't tolerate it. It sucks that I have to be alone through Christmas now and that I feel I just lost my first love to a streamer. Thanks so much for all of your advice and I'm sorry I couldn't apply it better. I wish I had a better update for you all. TLDR I tried to talk to her but she ended up ignoring me for him again on date night we broke up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. For future reference, when you plan a date night, keep it a date night. None of this I planned a night for us so I can ruin it by making it about this issue I have. Aside from that, I literally cannot believe she can't put her phone down to be present with you in the moment especially since you specifically asked her. I know it's hard right now especially around the holidays but you deserve a partner who is going to want to spend quality time with you over some dumb streamer. Most girls would kill for a guy like you. Reply. Yeah that was totally my mistake I was trying so hard to hold back from bringing it up but I did anyways. I will definitely take your advice to heart. Commenter 2. Still wanna know what streamer that was. Reply. Most people guessed him right in the comments last post I'm just anxious to reveal his name and also I know the dude did nothing wrong but I'm not his biggest fan at the moment lol. Commenter point 3. DW about revealing who he was, it won't again his popularity since he literally didn't do anything other than live his life. But who was it? Stories number 13. My roommate's mom banged on my door when I had a guy over and said, shut the fuck up. I, F19, live in a college apartment with 3 other roommates. The roommate who lives right next to me, F19, had her mom stay the weekend with her in her room. Tonight I had a guy over and nothing crazy happened, around 5 a.m. we started to fool around. The mom then bangs on my door and says, can y'all shut the fuck up? Mind you, we aren't making much noise, all we are really doing is making out, no sex. Also in the past when I've had company I've asked my roommate if she could hear me and my guests and she has said that she can't hear us. So am I the asshole for having a guy over and making noise while her mom is staying over? Edit. Since a lot of people are commenting it, yes, we were probably a tad bit louder than I had originally thought, but there definitely wasn't any extreme moaning or super egregious sounds, no bed or walls shaking. I was mostly taken aback by how she approached me, but it's on me for making noise. From now on I will definitely be more cautious of bringing guests when my roommate has her parents. Stories number 14. To all of you ladies, from a cis man. I hope it isn't totally out of order for me to post here. As a man I don't want to take up your spaces, so I'll try and keep this as short as possible. TW genital mention. I have full permission from my partner to post this and she's read it all. There is a misconception that the only men a straight trans women can get with is a chaser. It is very sad that many of you feel that way, and I'm sorry for how men treat you, but that's not how it has to be. I met my girlfriend when I was 15, she was living as a boy then and was 13. I used to push her around when we played football at school. I thought she was one of the lads. Time goes on, I was never that close to her and we lost touch. Next thing is I meet her again on a fine art course. I didn't recognize her at all, and with her name change and generic surname I never made the connection. I developed quite the crush. We would go on dates and I'd sort of play them off as just hanging out with a friend. I was so giddy around her and I was terrified to tell her I liked her. One day we were going to the movies and I told myself, today is the day I ask her to be my girlfriend, and try to kiss her. We ended up skipping the movie to go on a walk in the local forest. I held her hand and she squeezed mine, my heart was beating so damn fast. We finally kissed and it was like fireworks. I told her I liked her but she cut me off. She told me to stop talking because she needs to tell me something. Now in my mind I'm panicking thinking she's in a relationship, but she says, I used to be a boy, I was at school with you. Please don't be mad, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. And then to my absolute horror she said, please don't hurt me. She genuinely thought that there was a danger of me attacking her after finding out. This broke my fucking heart. I had my moment of being like WTF, mainly because I'd known this girl for almost 10 years and hadn't pieced the two people together. But then we kissed again, and then again and again, and we kissed so much my face hurt by the end. That was 5 years ago and boy this has been a learning curve. I've only ever dated cis women before, I am 100% straight and I had to unlearn some internalized shit for maybe a day or so, until I thought what the fuck does it matter who she used to be. Damn, I used to be a baby, people change. But I love her the way she is now, I love her smile, I love her eyes, I love her body, her curves, her hands, her hair, and you know what? I love her penis too. I love it because it's hers, and it gives her pleasure, and there isn't anything wrong with it. I don't have a fetish, I just fell in love with a woman and that means I fell in love with the whole package. I'm planning to propose to her on New Year's Eve. I want to spend the rest of my life with her, I want to raise kids with her and I want her to lose all of these insecurities. Just because you can't carry them, doesn't mean you won't be the mother of my children. There is hope, you're not broken or unlovable or nothing but a kink. You're a powerful woman. Update from the cis guy that proposed. Hey ladies. I've been asked by a few of you to share an update. So on exactly midnight New Year's, okay, I was probably out by a couple minutes but I did try to time it. I proposed to my beautiful girlfriend, who also happens to be trans, hence why I'm posting on here, and she said yes. I don't know if I can fully articulate how happy I am. I wanted to keep it low-key and between the two of us so she didn't feel any pressure. So I cooked her favorite meal ever. I would have liked to cook something fancy and elegant, but honestly she would much rather eat spaghetti bolognese with garlic bread and then a loaded ice cream sundae for dessert any day of the week. We ate, played board games and did a competition to see who could make the best vehicle out of old egg cartons and toilet roll tubes. Then we decided to make cupcakes which were fucking vile because we forgot to add the sugar of all things. Not typical romantic evening, but I felt all the love and when I dropped down on one knee she just wept. I didn't even know I had a yes at first because she was crying so much. I actually got really scared I'd freaked her out, so I stood up and hugged her and said I'm sorry, and she finally told me yes 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 and explained that she was crying because it was always beyond her wildest dreams as a youngster that she would ever be able to be a wife. This is not something I can relate to, but I think I do understand, as best as I can as a cis man. We literally just held each other for a bit before we both realized she hadn't seen the ring yet. I'm not a wealthy guy at all, so I was afraid she would be disappointed in my grandmother's wedding ring as her engagement ring. I will buy her a new ring for the wedding, but I did want her to have it as my grandmother always told me she wanted my future wife to wear it. Luck was on my side though people, because the ring made her cry all over again, happy tears, because she said it made her feel like the fairy tale she told herself as a child has finally come true. I think there maybe was something affirming about the fact that this ring was left from my grandma for me to give to the woman I want to spend my life with. Okay, I don't want to bore you all to death with the ins and outs, but I haven't stopped smiling since she said yes. The fiance, I love saying that, so exciting, has been obsessively wedding planning, which is mighty convenient for me considering I have no clue on how to organize a wedding. It's like the child in her has come out to play and it's very endearing. She missed out on all the typical girly activities as a child, so she's making up for lost time. She already has a scrapbook for the wedding and she's already browsing dresses. I'm sorry for being all cliché and cringe. I know it's insufferable to many and I do understand. I just feel drunk in love, and I did want to update and not leave people hanging. Other than my mother, my family does not know she is trans, because frankly it's none of their business and my fiancé hasn't wanted to open up to them about that part of her life. She confided in my mother because my mother knows a transgender boy and so it came up in conversation. As far as the rest of my family are concerned, it's totally irrelevant to them and they will only ever know if she chooses to tell them. So I was wondering if incorporating rainbows anywhere in the theme at all would be too obviously LGBT pride themed, or can I get away with some rainbow tokens and such just as a discreet acknowledgement of how far she's come. Obviously I don't want people to think of this wedding as anything other than what it is, a straight marriage between a man and a woman, so are rainbows risky? I'm just so damn proud of her and want to show that in some way. I was thinking of wearing rainbow cufflinks or something. Anyway, sorry for the damn essay, but I hope the new year goes well for you lovely ladies and sorry for being a cringelord. I just can't believe I've found my queen. A small update was posted in the comments the next day. Also, we have decided that on the big day, I will wear pink cufflinks and she will wear either blue eye makeup or a flower, and then the theme will be that classic white sorta theme. The colors of the trans flag, thanks to your suggestions. Like so subtle that only me and her will know it means anything at all. Hopefully that will work out tastefully, but we also like the pink blue white elements of the cake idea. I showed her some of these comments and god damn it you lot, she is now exploring so many more ideas and concepts. I didn't think she would expand past the scrapbook, but we now have a wedding mood board, of all things. Takes up half the wall in our room. I proposed only 3 days ago. I love her enthusiasm, but I'm finding it hard to rate all the dresses she shows me, when I can't tell the difference between any of them. A white dress is a white dress, but she says that's typical male bullshit and she's probably right there. But she can wear a bin bag to our wedding and still look perfect, so I'm not worried about which complements her body more, but then I do want her to put a dress on and have that feeling of, this is my dress, and I have the feeling that could be a long process. Anyway, the kindness means everything. X. Stories number 15. Exercise bro got the same surgery as me on the same day as me and asked how I got injured. Now everyone knows. After getting surgery to repair a torn labrum in my hip, I was required to do 6 weeks of physical therapy. I noticed a guy with the same hip brace and bandages my first day, and we kept running into each other at our physical therapy appointments as we had apparently scheduled them similarly. We had been making semi-awkward eye contact and friendly half-smiles for a week or two when one day he asked about which surgery I got while we were in the waiting room. We confirmed it was the same one and he shared that the cause of his tear was exercise-related. He was basically using it as a chance to brag loudly about how much he could leg press in front of the young cute office staff ladies. Then he asked how I tore mine, with a tone akin to, what could you possibly have done to tear yours? I smiled and answered, childbirth. He turned bright red and said, oh. The office ladies laughed at him and told me how strong I must be. Exercise bro stared at his phone until he got called back. Stories number 16. Aita for kicking out my MIL in the middle of the night. Some background, I, 32M, and my wife, 25F, have been together for 5 years and married for 3 and are expecting our son right now. We have our ups and downs when we first got together because I was fresh out of an abusive relationship and I was her first boyfriend, but I had always noticed that she was really demeaning about herself and she was always really disappointed in herself, and this was just 6 months into our relationship and it hurt to see her like that since she is an amazing woman. I convinced her to go to therapy, and to her, we would do couple therapy because I did really love her in the short amount of time, and during therapy, I learned that her parents were narcissists who only loved her brother, their golden child, and when she relayed the abuse she faced I honestly cried, and that whole experience made us the strong couple we are today and the strong woman she is today. Back to present, my MIL and FIL have gotten a little better over the years, which is why we are at LC from our NC position. My MIL came to visit us. They live overseas, since my wife is pregnant and it has been only a week and my wife's mood is completely dimmed. This happened at night when we were sleeping. My wife went to get some juice since she was craving it while I went to the washroom and came back to see a glass on the floor and my MIL shouting at my wife. I couldn't handle my anger and shouted at her to get out and told her if she didn't I was gonna call the police, so she begrudgingly got out of the house. I calmed my wife down and she told me Mil had gotten mad at her cause she wanted to drink apple juice because it's bad for the baby and how she doesn't deserve to have a baby if she wanted to kill it. I am now getting calls from her family saying I am an asshole because I kicked her out, and I even got a call from my parents saying it was an asshole move and I could have let her stay the night, and I understand I might be the asshole cause I kicked her out in the middle of the night, but at that moment looking at my wife shaking it was the best option. So Reddit Aita Edit, sorry for the bad grammar. Edit 2. 4 people asking me about what kind of apple juice my wife was drinking in the messages. She was drinking natural apple juice which she makes herself from fresh apples, not the one from the market. Relevant comments, and OOP's response to them. Commenter 1, NTA. Your in-laws are toxic people. I'm proud of you for protecting your wife from their garbage. They don't deserve a place in your family's life. Reply, thank you. For a second I did really believe that they were getting better and not being toxic, but that was just a lie I guess. Commenter 2, how does your wife feel about it? I think she should have made the decision at night, and if she wanted to you could have kicked her out during the day. But honestly it's tricky as hell, and you are an amazing BF for standing with your wife, help her overcome things and everything. Reply, my wife is currently undergoing therapy cause she is really shaken up by whatever happened, and she confessed to me that her mother was criticizing everything and she was ready to tell her mom that she doesn't want her here, and she almost said it, but Mil's comment about how she was gonna be a bad mother hit her really hard. Thank you so much. I try to be a good husband, quite nervous about the father thing but working on it. Commenter 2, could you elaborate on, I saw a glass on the floor. Was it dropped, thrown, knocked out of your wife's hand? Reply, it was a cup of glass that we usually use to drink juice, and my wife said it dropped from her hand when Mil was shouting at her. Update, AITA for kicking out my Mil in the middle of the night. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. Thank you to everyone who voted NTA because I was really conflicted or a few days after the incident, and I also agree that I could have controlled my anger better. A lot has happened since I posted. Me and my wife went to therapy where she told me the reason she accepted her mother's request to come because she saw how her mom treated her brother's kids, so she wanted that for our son too, and she really did believe that her mother had changed for the better, but as explained by our therapist that some narcissists refused to change. My wife and I have written one letter and sent it to every one of her family member who had told us we were in the wrong, which basically said that her mother never cared for her and never would, and we didn't want that around our children. And my wife wrote about several instances where she was subjected to emotional abuse, and even though everyone knew, no one did anything except for her grandma, her father's mother. She said she is tired of always being the bigger one, but now she would be selfish for herself and our child, and if anyone disagrees they are welcome to cut contact, as she wouldn't miss people like that in her life. Something which shocked both of us was when her father called and asked what happened, and she narrated everything. Her father, being the typical narcissist, tried to gaslight, but with my support and her therapy she put her foot down and asked her father if he had ever cared about her because it never felt like they did. She narrated every instance from her childhood to her adulthood where she was subjected to emotional abuse and how her brother always came before her. Her dad was silent throughout the call, and in the end, all my wife said that for her currently, she doesn't have parents, and hung up. By the end all my wife did was cry, and I cried with her. I also called my parents asking how could they not take my side knowing the history, because they really love my wife, which is why it was hard listening I'm in the wrong, and they told me that it was because her mother had called them in hysterics and told I was physical with her. I was not. After learning the truth from me they came over to apologize, and my mother held my wife. I am a single child, so I and my wife are everything to them. I would like to point out in the metropolitan area and there are plenty of hotels, so I wasn't worried about my Mil finding a hotel. She'd loaded money isn't an issue. For now, we are just waiting for the little one to be born, and my wife is much happier and free from her toxic family. More relevant comments, and OOP's response to them. Commenter 1, great to hear that things are resolving the way they likely should. I hope your parents never side against you like that again. They had no reason to believe Mil's horrible account that their own son was an abuser. That part is the biggest betrayal for me out of all of this, as wife's parents are already known narcissists. Reply, I still haven't quite forgiven them for believing I would physically harm someone like that. They have been narcissists who preferred her brother above her ever since she could remember. Her emotional abuse is very painful to hear, but now she has made a Reddit account and joined Raised by Narcissists, and it is really helping her. Commenter 2, good on both of you for sticking to your guns and getting all this out in the open. Narcissists thrive on partial information. By sharing this with everyone in your extended family it puts the mom in the spotlight where it will be a lot harder to get away with it. Reply, her mother is not liked by all except for ones who are just like her, so no surprise there, and that's why I'm not really worried about who she tells it to. We have told her therapist that she might need to be with us in case the situation gets out of hand. Commenter 3, you're a wonderful and supportive husband and soon you'll be a great dad. Good time to cut out the toxicity from your lives before the little one arrives. Info: after you sent the letters to those family members, did you get any feedback? Reply: they called us right after. It was almost as if they were waiting to be reached out to. We didn't pick up the calls and have blocked them, and if the situation worsens we might seek the police, but I don't think it will after the conversation my wife had with her father. Commenter point 4. The reason she accepted her mother's request to come because she saw how her mom treated her brother's kids, so she wanted that for our son too. Don't fool yourself, OP's wife. If MIL treats her grandchildren from the golden child like that is because they're the golden child's kids. Your kid would have been ignored or degraded, mostly. Your therapist is right about that. Please continue the NC for your wife's mental help and your LO. Reply: she understands it now and really well and will not get manipulated by her mother again. She is an amazing grandmother to her brother's children because they have no other choice. Her brother is a drug addict who can't care for his own children properly. Commenter point 0. Letter was a nice touch. Reply: we didn't want any verbal communication, knowing all they'll do is out, and my wife doesn't like shouting due to her childhood. OOP in response to a deleted commenter: surprisingly she has only told my parents I was physical with her and nobody else. Ollie Argonaut: time to get a doorbell camera security system if you don't already have it. Reply: our house is completely secured. Commenter 6: good to hear everything better now. Reply: she is eating apple slices with jam currently, so that is a celebration I guess. Stories number 17. Aita for not serving as much food as I know my dinner guests will want to eat. First, I want to be clear that I do not believe in body shaming or food policing. Having lost 100 pounds myself and working on another 50, I have no place to judge anyone for what they eat. I pride myself on being a generous host who makes my guests comfortable and feeds them well. Nobody leaves my house hungry has always been my rule. The problem: I have a friend group who meets monthly at either my or Joan's home for dinner. Nobody else has enough space to host. Recently, Polly announced she had a girlfriend, which made us all happy. Polly has been lonely for a long time. I was the first to host Melissa. Melissa is 500 to 600 pounds. I've never met anyone that big, but I hid my surprise and was warm and welcoming. No problem, I have sturdy furniture. For dinner, I served bowls of salad, then soup. Melissa insisted on keeping her empty bowls at the table. I didn't think much of it, I'm not Emily Post. Then I brought out the main course, 2 9 by 13 pans of 14-layer lasagna, cut into 8 pieces each. There were 10 of us altogether. I told people to dig in as I got the bread out of the oven. When I got back to the dining room, everyone looked so shocked I thought my cat had farted. His mouse farts could suffocate an elephant. Then I saw that Melissa had 4 pieces of lasagna heaped on her plate, 2 in her salad bowl, and 2 in her soup bowl. Polly was glaring like, don't you dare say a word. Melissa seemed utterly oblivious. I didn't know what to do. I just sat down. Joan and I shared 1 piece of lasagna, and everyone else got a full piece. I cut the cake into equal portions for dessert, but I had to make an extra batch of sauce and get an extra tub of ice cream out. Melissa ate at least a liter. The next month, on Joan's turn, she served every course pre-plated, and when Melissa asked for extra, Joan apologized and said there was none. Truth, Joan is very organized and precise. Melissa and Polly left right after dinner, and Polly texted Joan, berating her for controlling Melissa's eating. Polly also texted me saying she trusted I'd be sensitive to Melissa's needs on my next turn. That turn is almost here. My plan was roast dinner, pork and beef. I can easily make lots of cheap veg and dessert, but meat is pricey right now, and I'd have to serve twice the norm to satisfy Melissa. I know I cannot just trust she'll take 1/10 of what's there, considering she grabbed a whole lasagna last time. So do I suck it up and just buy much larger roasts? Do I make a few big batches of cheap soup and biscuits and serve that rather than strain my budget? I don't want to upset Melissa or be a stingy host, but I have never dealt with someone like this before. I was obese, but I would have eaten maybe 2 pieces of lasagna, not 8. Do I just serve a reasonable sized meal and tell Polly and Melissa, sorry, that's all I have? Aita, if I serve less food than I know my guests will want. Edited to add everyone in the group who doesn't cook, so 7 people before Melissa joined, chips in $25 per meal to whoever hosts. That, until inflation got so bad, covered enough of the food cost to make it feasible. Joan and I have both been simplifying our menus a bit to deal with rising costs, but the idea is to give ourselves and our friends a night off from the humdrum world and pretend we live glamorous, elegant lives. We use fine china and dress nicely and play classical music. Right before Melissa, I was going to ask if we could increase the chip-in to $30 a plate. I have the most resources out of anyone in the group, and I can afford to go out of pocket a bit more than Joan. None of the rest have the money, space, or culinary skills to put this together. Joan and I can cook like Julia Child. We are a ragtag lot with a variety of neurodivergences and mental health issues. These meals give us something special to look forward to. Aita has no consensus bot. Relevant comments. OOP clarifies the details on how deep the 14-layer lasagna is. Reply, about 6 inches. Beef sauce, pasta, ricotta parmold white cheddar, pasta, lamb sauce, pasta, ricotta parmold white cheddar, pasta, veal sauce, pasta, ricotta parmold white cheddar, pasta, a mix of the 3 meat sauces, then fresh and smoked mozzarella. It takes 3 days. First day, you make the sauces and let them sit overnight for flavors to mingle. You build the lasagnas the next day and let them sit overnight, wrapped in plastic so nothing dries out, which lets the flavors mingle, then bake them the next day. For the first hour and a half, you bake without the final cheese layer on, with the pans tightly covered in foil. Then you add the final cheese layer, tent the edges in foil so they don't dry or burn, and bake the second hour and a half. I found a convection oven works best to ensure it bakes all the way through. You want the full recipe? OOP needs to get a strong backbone and set up the boundaries. Reply, thank you. I really do lack a spine. In my defense, my cultural background dictates that you feed your guests all they want, and I do have some sympathy for Melissa. But this is an insanely extreme situation. I don't think even Dutch people would tolerate one person eating half of a meal for 10 and letting the other 9 split the second half. I'm messaging with Joan, and we have messaged the others in the group, not Polly or Melissa, for their opinions. I know that nobody is impressed with Melissa's eating. Most of them have more backbone than me. Commenter 1, NTA, I'd absolutely pre-plate the meal. I'd also go one further though and tell Polly straight out that Melissa's behavior was rude and unacceptable at a dinner party. And if she did it again, I'd say something, yes, in front of everyone. Truly though I wouldn't invite Polly and Melissa anymore, and I'd be honest about why. Reply, Polly sees Melissa's issues as an illness disability she cannot control, so we need to accept and accommodate. That's how I was seeing it when I wrote the post. I have anxiety problems and people accommodate me. But what people are saying here is making me think that there is more premeditation and manipulation involved. Polly has been so lonely for so long I think she'll put up with anything now that she has someone. And Polly knows that I have compassion for obesity, she supported me through my struggles, helped take care of me during my recovery from bariatric surgery, etc. She's usually a kind-hearted person. But she's enabling Melissa into unacceptable behavior like someone excuses an alcoholic drinking up all of someone else's booze. Yes, we have to do something. Joan and I are waiting on input from the rest of the group, and I want to discuss it with my parents because my mom is really good at etiquette and my dad is a semi-retired crisis counselor. And, you know, they do help finance my parties. I'm not a freeloader, I pay room and board, do the cleaning so my arthritic mom doesn't have to, and I help take care of my extremely elderly grandmother. The living situation works well, and I have the emotional support I need when my anxiety gets out of control. No judgment, please. I'm just not a person who does well living on my own. Several of my cousins are arguing over who gets to take me in when my parents get too old. They all want me to cook for them. OOP should consider about pre-plating to make it fair and square. Reply, everyone has different preferences and appetites, so pre-plating isn't ideal. Joan, who is so brilliant and organized, can usually get it right. I, who have had bariatric surgery, eat way less than most, but I stick to protein and veg and pass on most carbs except dessert and pasta. I love lots of sauce on anything. Jack is a big guy with a physical job, and he needs a big plateful to keep fueled, but he hates sauces on anything but pasta. He eats about 4 times what I do. Polly prefers mostly carbs. Joan can keep it all straight. I can't. I don't think the others will keep coming unless Melissa agrees to eat reasonably. 1/10 of what's on the table for 10 people, not half. The others are too uncomfortable, even if Melissa were to pay for everything she ate. I found it weirdly interesting to watch a human eat so much, but I get why others couldn't handle it. It's an unnatural addiction behavior, and that's hard for some to watch. I hate watching people get drunk. This is fundamentally the same, I think. OOP explains about her dinner group guests and how she prepares the food for everyone. Reply, there are 2 other long-term couples in the group of 9. Polly and Melissa are the 3rd couple, and Melissa brought our number to 10. The rest of us are chronically single. We are misfits. I very carefully cultivated this group, choosing people I genuinely liked and knew would get along. I invited Polly to bring Melissa once they were an established couple. Because it was her first time and her presence wasn't going to make a difference in how much I cooked, I didn't ask for her to chip in, she did chip in for the meal at Joan's. I didn't imagine Melissa would be offensive because Polly is so painfully sweet usually. Before the meal, Melissa was very pleasant. She's intelligent and educated, advanced education and not living up to its potential is the commonality of the whole group. She obviously loves Polly and seemed considerate of her. It was like when the food got there, she turned into someone else. I didn't notice the change until she emptied a whole lasagna pan onto her plate and bowls. Balancing those heaps was an amazing feat of physics. I kept waiting for layers of pasta, sauce, and cheese to slide onto my beautiful lace tablecloth. If I didn't think about the reality of the situation, it was really ghoulishly fascinating to watch. I abhor food policing, so I always offer more food to my guests than the Canada Food Guide says is necessary. The rest of my life, I must cook according to the food guide because my parents are diabetic and I'm also on a weight loss journey. This party is my chance to get decadent. Dutch Canadians might pre-plate snacks and dessert for guests, but never the main course. It's considered disrespectful to limit what a guest eats, and a lot of us are farmers so hearty appetites is normal. But normal has never included one person eating a whole lasagna. This meal gives my guests a bright spot in their struggles, of which they all have many, as do I. But watching a live mukbang performance puts a damper on the fun according to the rest of the group. If I'm being honest about how I feel, it was kind of like Melissa was stealing from me, eating such a crazy amount, and stealing from the other guests. They all had a sufficiency, but I know a few of them would have liked a second piece. I think that answers everything. Sorry if I missed something. Getting tired. Does OOP host dinners often besides Joan? Reply, this is once a month. The rest of the time, I eat and cook very healthfully and am losing weight. Most of the group is not overweight. Our health conditions are things we were born with or mental health conditions. A vegetarian diet is not going to cure dwarfism or the damage done from a car accident. Point is, these once-a-month parties are a treat. This isn't how any of us, except maybe Melissa, eat every day. It's not my business what people should be eating or make them eat healthier. That's what food policing is, and I don't do that. I just offer a special experience once a month to people who have hard lives. Update 1, Aita for not serving as much food as I know my dinner guests will want to eat. Excrement is hitting the fan right now. I thought I was safe because I knew Polly didn't use Reddit. But apparently Melissa told an online friend about 14-layer lasagna, and that friend saw the post and showed it to her. Stupid me, wanting to show off my culinary prowess. Apparently I'm not the only one this has happened to. I was silly to think, oh, it couldn't happen to me. So, Melissa and Polly are at my house now, enraged, and my dad the semi-retired crisis counselor is talking to them whilst I wait downstairs in my suite and cry. Yes, I am hiding behind my parents, but they are calmer and more objective, and I am too anxious to have a rational conversation with Polly and Melissa. Update, it sounds like they've split them off. Dad is in one room talking to Melissa. Mum is in another, talking to Polly. I cannot get close enough to eavesdrop, and my damn cat won't tell me what he's hearing. Might as well take this time to answer some common questions. The chip-in has been $25 per person who doesn't cook. Joan and I never pay, regardless of who hosts. So we have been working off a budget of $175 because the group is 9 people and 7 pay. Last night and this morning we decided to increase the chip-in to $35. As of this moment, Melissa is only invited if she sticks to appropriate portions because no matter how much she pays, the rest of the group does not want to watch her eat like that. Is that mean? I don't know. But, given the yelling from upstairs, I don't know if she or Polly will ever return. For those who think I cannot have sturdy enough furniture, my dad is a very large man. My now deceased Opa and my uncle custom built most of the furniture in the house, least the stuff he would sit on. Dad has lost a lot, but everyone in the family has a good chair or two for him to sit on in their homes. Polly has helped me through a lot and has had a very difficult life, so I am loath to upset her. I understand now that I need to grow a spine and that I don't need to be a doormat. I built this group and started the parties in part because restaurants aren't an option for all involved. We have a plethora of mental, physical, and neurosis health issues going on. One of us has dwarfism and doesn't like being stared at. The parties are our escape from difficult lives. We dress up in vintage glam costumes we found at thrift stores or made for ourselves and pretend that we are in Golden Age Hollywood or something. It's a big deal, and both Joan and I truly love to cook and host. I like cooking fancy food because I have to cook healthfully the rest of the time for my own weight loss and my diabetic parents. I do not want my parties to turn into salad and lentil fests. I eat that the rest of the time. For whoever suggested a crowded boil, we are landlocked in Canada. Beef is cheaper than crawdads around here. I haven't cooked much southern soul food, but it's a possibility if we don't include seafood because it costs the earth. Polly sees Melissa's issues as a disability we should accommodate. She compared it to Dad building a wheelchair ramp onto the front porch for my granny and auntie. But I now understand that letting Melissa gorge is not a kindness. It's enabling very dangerous behavior. She could keel over in my dining room, and we do not want to deal with all the paperwork that would create. I honestly did think that everyone who was morbidly obese and addicted to food got that way from trauma because my sister and I did. I wasn't actually deprived of lasagna. Joan and I often share a piece. I've had bariatric surgery and cannot eat much, and Joan prefers salad and bread and only a small portion of something as rich as lasagna. I'll post the recipe once I remember all of it. It's a combo of a few different ones and some right from my head. I'm extremely stressed right now, so remembering ingredients isn't working. I was wrong on Melissa's weight. She's 490 pounds. My bad, I am not good at estimating those things. I would be much calmer right now and not be having chest pain if this was rage bait. I wish it was rage bait. Sorry to disappoint. Please don't call Melissa derogatory names. This is not about hating on fat people. I was looking for advice on how to approach her obesity and food addiction behavior with fairness and compassion. Also, thanks for all the kind and helpful things people said. Some of the douchey ones gave me a laugh, like the idiot who thought 2 enormous lasagnas doesn't feed 10 people. I'll write another post when things are resolved. Relevant comments. How old are the guys in the group including OOP? OOP, early 40s. Before you judge me for hiding behind my parents, remember that I have significant neurodivergence and mental health issues. I'm still in therapy to learn to manage confrontation and the like. I used to be a very mean person, that's how I coped with the anxiety, but I hated that and have worked so hard to go in the other direction that I went too far and break down during emotional confrontation. I'm still recovering from a very dangerous bout of depression and a hospitalization. I don't want to go back there, so I'm doing what I must, even if it's letting my dad fight my battles. Did Polly and Melissa just showed up at OOP's house in order to yell at her? OOP, they know where I live. They've been here before. I didn't invite them in. They knocked, the cleaner let them in and called for me, and they started yelling. Once my parents figured out what was happening, they suggested I go calm down. Overbearing or not, they're trying to protect me. I thought I'd have a few days to figure this all out, but Melissa saw the Reddit post, and she recognized it. I hadn't changed many identifying details because I'd just been thinking about Polly not seeing it. Update 2. First off, thanks to everyone who responded kindly. I'm still working through all the private messages, and I'll get there. Also, I'm still working on remembering the whole lasagna recipe. I'll post it when I do. First, an apology. I knew Polly didn't use Reddit, but I was foolish and didn't think that Melissa might. I was out of line with some of what I said, like calling it a live mukbang show, and for that I apologize. This post was not supposed to be about fat shaming, and I did, in my comments, fat shame. That is on me, and I apologize. I do not hate Melissa for being obese. My problem has solely been about the etiquette and fairness of the food consumption. Update. That day they came to my house, I did eventually speak to Melissa and Polly after they calmed down. Melissa has always dreamed of having friends who would accept her as she is and be in a group where she can eat the way she does without judgment. Polly believed that I would provide that. I told them that I cannot, because I almost ate myself to death, and helping someone else do it is too much. Also, most of my other guests were uncomfortable. I said I would provide double portions to Melissa, which is a lot of food, but no more. I did not mention the cost, because I didn't want them to offer to pay as a way around it. They said they'd think about it, but Polly messaged me a few days later and said that she could not forgive me humiliating her partner online unless I showed true remorse by giving Melissa what she needs, an unlimited buffet at my home. So our friendship is over. Another member of the group has sided with Polly, upset at the fact that I discussed this online. So that is where we're at. My group has shrunk. We'll grow again. There are a few people we are going to discuss who might make good additions. But we skipped this month's party because of the stress and drama. As to whether I should have discussed it online at all, I've decided that I'm not sorry for that. I changed enough details that someone outside the circle would not recognize it. Some genders, names, ages, medical conditions, who has what career, which relatives I live with, who has what career, have been altered to preserve anonymity. I needed advice, and I thought anonymously online would be better than asking a bunch of people I knew, because I did not want to tell people who knew Melissa what happened. Edited to add, I remember now that Melissa did go to the bathroom I think twice during the meal. I'm wondering if she purged in those trips. That would make it easier to consume that much food. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. The fact that you and your friend normally share and there was no leftovers makes it seem like your friend informed their girlfriend ahead of time how the portions are normally initially divided so they could feel free to take so much for their firsts. The both planned this ahead of time. Reply, I can see now that they did. I've been deeply conflicted about all this because I understand the food addiction side of it and don't want to make anyone struggle worse in that regard. I mean, I needed to grow a spine and realize I had to protect my own health before someone else's, and I'm glad for people who told me to do it. But grasping how far their manipulation went has made it easier to let go of the friendship. Commenter 2. I think online like this is a perfect place to get some outside opinions, and I think you handled it better than I would have and probably better than most people would have. It sucks to lose a friend, but I'd be willing to bet if they ever part ways she'll be back, and you can choose whether or not to accept her back. Commenter 3. I wouldn't accept her back. She's shown OP that the price of her friendship is OP's hard-won mental and physical health at risk of relapse because her girlfriend needs enough food for 2 linebackers served with a smile to feel emotionally secure. Reply, none of it makes sense. When I was binging, Polly never judged me. I ate a huge bag of her peanut M&Ms once, like a 3-pound bag in one evening. I got so sick. She never said a word. She held my hair back when I puked. I apologized and replaced them once it sunk in what I'd done, and she just hugged me and said it was okay. She knew things were hard for me. For years, Polly gave me an acceptance I needed, and when I was ready to face my addiction and fight it, she was at my side all the way. I don't understand who she's become with Melissa. I mean, Polly has issues of her own, she isn't a saint, but I never doubted her care for my well-being before now. And the calculated manipulation, maybe she was more manipulative all along, but I never saw it. I just felt loved by her usually, but I guess it doesn't matter. Polly's made her choices, and you're right that they're dangerous for me. I've already gained weight from this, and I'm struggling to get my binge eating back under control. I know that I will, I have the tools and support, but this was rough. Commenter 4, Melissa and Polly are both awful people, and no one should ever bloody accommodate eating like that. It's disgusting, it's selfish, and it's horribly unhealthy. I'm glad you don't have to deal with that horrible crap anymore, and that a friend that sided with them is no loss either. Reply, I'm a former binge eater. So part of me understands Melissa, though I never could eat like that. When I'd go to someone else's place, I'd often eat first to make sure I wouldn't overeat there. But sometimes I did eat more than my share. It was wrong of me, but I don't want to consider myself disgusting, so I don't want to call Melissa that. I'd rather see her as someone with a horrible addiction illness and hope that she sees her problem and seeks help. I do appreciate you standing in my corner, though. It feels very nice to have so many internet strangers care about my well-being. 14-layer, I must be crazy, lasagna recipe, as requested. 14-layer lasagna. This is my, I must be crazy, lasagna recipe that a bunch of people have asked me to post. It's incredibly decadent but quite delicious. It's from a mix of other recipes, including some hints from Kenji and from my mom's recipe, and some from my head. You might find yourself adjusting measurements or seasonings to suit your own palate. I tend to cook by feel and instinct, so these measurements are about the closest I can come. But lasagna really is one of those foods that nobody uses exact recipes for, so see this as a guide. I usually make this over 2 or 3 days because it tastes better to let the sauces sit and then the assembled lasagnas sit to let the flavors mingle, but it's still good if you have to do it all the same day. Warning, that will be one long day. Give yourself 8 hours from start till serving time. First off, you need a pan at least 6 inches deep, because this thing gets tall. Mine end up somewhere between 4 to 6 inches tall, depending on how thick I make the layers. And this is 4 to 6 inches on a ruler, not what your last hookup told you was 4 to 6 inches. This recipe is for 2 9 by 13 pans, because that's usually how I make it. You have to cut everything in half if you're just doing one, but that's way too much work to just make one lasagna, so make 2 and put 1 in the freezer. They'll freeze well, just don't add the top cheese. Let it thaw for 2 days in the fridge before baking. It takes for freaking ever to thaw. A note about the meats, veal and lamb tend to be fattier meats, so you'll lose more volume to melted fat that you'll need to drain out. So if you're using lean ground beef, use more veal and lamb than you do beef if you want the meat amounts to be equal. Component ingredients. Beef sauce, minus 500 to 650 grams ground beef, around 1 to 1.5 pounds. Salt and pepper to taste. Minus 250 grams chopped onion, about a cup. Minus 250 grams finely chopped celery, about a cup. -4 tablespoons olive oil. -2 cloves minced garlic. A few sprigs basil leaves, chopped finely. A few sprigs oregano leaves, chopped finely. -2 bay leaves. -2 tablespoons fish sauce. -250 milliliters red wine. -250 milliliters milk. -750 to 1000 milliliters pureed tomatoes. Use the higher amount if the tomatoes are fresh. You can do the lower amount if they're canned because they've already reduced some. Lamb sauce. -500 to 650 grams ground lamb, around 1.5 pounds. Salt and pepper to taste. -250 grams chopped onion, about 1 cup. -250 grams chopped carrot, about 1 cup. -4 tablespoons olive oil. -2 cloves minced garlic. A few sprigs of finely chopped rosemary leaves, at least 3 tablespoons. A few sprigs of finely chopped oregano, a bit less than the rosemary. -1 tablespoon cumin. -1 tablespoon pureed anchovy paste. -250 milliliters dry white wine. -250 milliliters milk. -750 to 1000 milliliters pureed tomatoes. Use the higher amount if the tomatoes are fresh. You can do the lower amount if they're canned because they've already reduced some. Veal sauce. -500 to 650 grams ground veal, around 1.5 pounds. Salt and pepper to taste. -250 grams chopped onion, about 1 cup. -250 grams chopped leek, about 1 cup. -4 tablespoons olive oil. -2 cloves minced garlic. A few sprigs of finely chopped basil leaves. A few sprigs of finely chopped parsley. A few sprigs of finely chopped marjoram. -2 tablespoons fish sauce. -250 milliliters chicken stock. -250 milliliters milk. -750 to 1000 milliliters pureed tomatoes. Use the higher amount if the tomatoes are fresh. You can do the lower amount if they're canned because they've already reduced some. A note about sauces: if you don't want to do 3 separate sauces, you can mix all 3 meats together. Basically, just throw all the ingredients of all of the sauces in the same pot, following the procedure I outlined below. It will be tasty, with very layered, complex flavor. Ricotta cheese blend. -1.5 liters ricotta. -750 gm grated Parmigiano Reggiano or Parmesan. Get the fresh stuff and grate. Do not sully this beautiful piece of culinary artwork with powder, please. -500 gm grated old white cheddar. -6 eggs. I cup finely chopped parsley. Pasta. If you're using pre-made noodles, you'll need 18 to 30 pr lasagna, depending on how many you like to put on each layer. Minimum coverage is 3 noodles per layer, but I often do 5 to ensure max coverage, and my pans are a little bigger than 9 by 13. So, altogether you need 36 to 60. If you're making your own pasta in sheets, remember each lasagna needs 6 layers of pasta. Top cheese. 1000 grams grated mozzarella and 4 large balls of fresh mozzarella. I use the ones that are like the size of a small fist. You might want more or less. Sometimes I add in some old white cheddar here, too. Component instructions. Meat sauces, the procedure is the same for all 3. Note, have everything chopped, measured, and ready to go, at least for the first time you make it. Goes much easier and you won't burn anything. The herbs, I always use fresh, and unless otherwise stated, I tend to use about 2 tablespoons of each in each sauce. Some people might find this a bit overpowering, so you might wish to start with less and adjust to taste halfway through the cooking process. Brown the meat. Drain the fat if there's too much. Add in salt and pepper to taste. Add vegetables, cook till onions soften some. The rest of the veg will soften nicely during the simmering, but onions don't do that well. Take meat and veg out of pan and set aside. Heat olive oil in pan on medium to medium high. Add garlic, cook for a minute or 2 until it starts to get a bit brown but don't burn it. Add half the herbs and anchovy fish sauce for those sauces, stir for just a minute to activate the flavor oils, but don't brown or burn them. Add wine stock immediately. Stir the pan with a wooden spoon to deglaze and get the stuck bits off the bottom. Add milk. Add meat and veg back in. Add tomatoes. Cook on low for 1.5 to 3 hours, stirring every 20 minutes. You want a bit of simmering, but not too much because the stuff on the bottom will burn. Add the other half of the herbs halfway through cooking, leaving some out if you think the taste will be too strong. The sauce volume will reduce because there is a lot of water in there, but remember that you'll need about 1.5 liters of each in the end. You can get by with less, depending on how thick you like your layers. I like mine thick, so 1.5 liters works for me. Taste your sauces at the end. You might want to adjust for flavors, adding salt or something. Depends on how you like things to taste. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of salt. Take the bay leaves out of the beef sauce. Best to let the sauces sit overnight in the fridge if you have time, but it's okay if you don't. Ricotta cheese blend. Make this right before you assemble. Whisk the eggs, then add the ricotta and parsley, then fold in the other cheeses. It will be a bit runny, but the eggs will cook and firm it up in the oven. Pasta. Cook your noodles to al dente unless you're using the kind that need no cooking. If you use cooked noodles, I advise you rinse them in cold water and throw in a bit of olive oil so they don't stick together. Then have a huge bowlful of them ready for when it's time to assemble. Top cheese, don't worry about that yet, it doesn't go on until halfway through the baking. Assembly. Grease your pans. I mean, it's still gonna be a mess, but this helps a bit. If you're not good at eyeballing measurements, divide your components into the right number of layers first. Put each meat sauce into 2 bowls with a bit more than a third in each, and then 2 bowls with the remaining sauces mixed together. So altogether to make 2 lasagnas, you need 2 bowls of beef sauce, 2 bowls of veal sauce, 2 bowls of lamb sauce, and then 2 bowls of the remnants mixed up. I cannot do the math on how to divide that, so you'll have to figure it out. All those bowls of sauce should be close to equal in amount. I like at least 500 milliliters for each meat sauce layer, but you can make do with a less. For the ricotta cheese mix, you need 3 bowls of sauce for each lasagna, so 6 altogether. I like at least 500 milliliters of mix per layer. The amount in the recipe should come close. Assembly order. Each lasagna goes in this order: beef sauce, pasta, ricotta cheese mix, pasta, lamb sauce, pasta, ricotta cheese mix, pasta, veal sauce, pasta, ricotta cheese mix, pasta, mix of meat sauces. Stop there. If you're baking the next day, wrap them tight in plastic wrap, put them in the fridge overnight, the flavors mix better. But same day baking is fine, too. If it's same day baking, go to baking time and temp. If you're baking the next day, let the lasagna sit on the counter a bit before you put them in the oven. This is super important if you're using a glass dish, because sometimes those crack with sudden temperature changes. I live in a cold climate, so my house is usually cool. I would not advise leaving something with raw eggs on the counter for a long time in Florida summer heat. Baking temp and time. I use a convection oven at about 300 to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. These puppies are thick, so you don't want the outside to cook too fast whilst the middle is raw. So don't go too hot, even with a convection oven. It might take you a few tries to figure out what works best for you. Cover each lasagna with foil, shiny side down, and bake for about an hour to an hour and a half. I do an hour if I'm making it all the same day and the sauces are warm, an hour and a half if I've chilled them overnight. Take them out. Leave oven on. Uncover and add the fresh and the grated mozzarella. I usually lay the fresh down in slices and then sprinkle the grated over top. How much cheese you want is really up to you. Carefully tent the foil, shiny side down, round the edge of each pan to prevent the edges from burning. Grease the foil if it might touch the cheese so it doesn't stick. Leave the middle open so steam can escape or the lasagna will be way too juicy. Put them back in and bake for another hour or hour and a half. Note on temperature and baking time, oven temperatures are really variable, so you have to pay attention. 1 to 2 hours into the baking process, cut into the middle of each lasagna, all the way down, and see if the layers are cooked through. Check again every 30 minutes. The ricotta layers will be kind of firm, and of course everything's piping hot. My oven takes almost 3 hours to bake them through after I've put them in the fridge overnight. I usually do that because I'm way too lazy to make everything the same day, but others might be different. If you do all cooking and assembly on the same day and the sauces are hot when they go in the pan, that will reduce cooking time. Edited to add. This is not a once-a-month recipe to add to the rotation. Also to add an ingredient I forgot. This is a special occasion, I want to show off, make someone feel incredibly special sort of recipe. I make it like twice a year for a particular group of people I love very much. I posted it because I mentioned it in another group and a bunch of people were asking. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my sister not to announce her pregnancy at my wedding because I was going to announce mine, but she did it anyway. I, 29F, got married 3 months ago to my amazing husband, 31M. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, but my sister, 32F, managed to overshadow it in a way that I can't seem to move past. A little background, my husband and I had been trying for a baby for a while, and when we finally got that positive test, we were over the moon. We decided we would share the news with our family and friends at our wedding reception, nothing crazy, just a small, heartfelt moment during the speeches. Only my parents and my maid of honor knew about this plan. A few weeks before the wedding, my sister pulled me aside to tell me she was pregnant. I was genuinely happy for her, and we had a sweet moment together. Then she casually mentioned that she was planning to announce it at my wedding. I was shocked and told her, as kindly as I could, that I would prefer she didn't. I even explained why, because I was also pregnant and planning to share the news that day. I asked if she could wait just a little longer so the day could stay focused on the wedding. She seemed a bit annoyed but didn't argue much, so I thought that was the end of it. Well, fast forward to the reception, and guess what? Right after the speeches, she stands up, clinks her glass, and announces her pregnancy. The whole room erupts in cheers, and suddenly, my wedding turns into her pregnancy celebration. I was stunned. I didn't even get the chance to share my own news because it felt like I'd just be trying to one-up her. Later, when I confronted her, she acted like I was overreacting and said she just couldn't keep it in anymore. When I told her how hurt I was, she said I was selfish for wanting to control when people share their happiness. My parents think she was out of line but are telling me to let it go for the sake of family peace, but I can't seem to move on. Every time I think about my wedding, I feel this bitter pit in my stomach because she took away a moment that was special for me. She, on the other hand, thinks I'm being dramatic and says I should be happy for her instead of making everything about myself. So, Aita for not letting this go. Stories number 19. Friend, 31F, upset after I, 27F, asked her to leave when I was in labor about to give birth. How do I solve this? Hi everyone. Hope it's okay I post this. I'm part of a friend group of 8 women, ages 26 to 31. I'm the second person to have a baby. They mean the world to me, especially since I have no relatives left. We all get along great, though I'm particularly close with Jess, who I've known since high school and even lived with for a bit. This mostly revolves around the day I gave birth, but I guess it started a few months before. All of them were doing so much effort for me and I couldn't be more grateful. One friend, Elisa from now on, kept getting more and more involved though, sometimes making me feel a bit uncomfortable. Had to ask her a few times to stop touching my bump and she'd get sad. She's joke about wanting to be there when the baby was born, how magical it is. It wasn't, lots of questions. At some point she asked me if she could join me and my partner for a checkup because she really wanted to be a part of it. I said no and asked her kindly to take a bit of a step back. That her excitement was sweet but a bit too much for us. She did apologize though was upset. I asked her why she wants to be involved so strongly, she didn't really give an answer. She said she loved me and the baby. And that Jess got to be a part of this a lot more, which is true. After she was silent for a bit, but things went back to normal. The last weeks before my due date she came around almost daily but I didn't want to be ungrateful, plus I was bored at home. They all came often, which I appreciated loads. The day I went into labor I was with my partner. I messaged Elisa that she didn't have to come, just that I'd tell her when we left for the hospital and the group something in the lines of, "This is it, we'll keep you all posted." Elisa still showed up and apologized, saying she didn't see the messages. She asked to stay for a bit because of the long drive. At some point we decided to go to the hospital though. Elisa said it was too early, could be true, she's a nurse, but I was feeling in pain and anxious and really just wanted to be there. Here's where it got intense, I guess. She just kinda started acting like she was coming with us. My partner, bless her, told her we got it from here, thanked her for all she did, but that she could go home now. Elise replied something along the lines of it was no trouble, she'd love to be there for us and, let's go, still intent on coming with us. It wasn't even a question. Again my partner now flat out told her we'd prefer it if she went home, but that will message the group to keep everyone posted. Elisa for some reason needed to hear it from me and I said the same thing. That we got it from here, that I'll keep her post but she should go home. She didn't really move though. She stood there, tearing up, while we grabbed our bags, chargers and so on. I should have checked but at that point I couldn't deal anymore. I got into our car and waited for my partner. Elisa came to my window and was full on crying. She asked me to come with, that it was really important for her. If Jess could be with me, why not she? And so on. I'll admit I didn't respond kindly. I was anxious and in pain and it's no excuse. But I shouted at her to leave, to stop being so weird, that it's not about her and so on. There were some swear words in there. My partner just drove off with me. I haven't heard from Elisa since, 3 weeks ago. She has come to see the baby, she doesn't reply in the group chat and our friends are saying she's incredibly upset with me, saying she can't forgive me. I don't want to mess up our friend group but I'm at a loss. None of us know why she's behaving this way. The other mom in the group said she was a bit like this when she was pregnant, but not close to the same way she was with me. I feel like she overstepped, but I also know I shouldn't have screamed at her like I did. Do I just apologize, try and restore the peace? Do I try to talk to her? Do I give her time to come to me? I'm exhausted and just want this to be resolved. Stories number 20. Aita for demanding that my fiance's parents change their plans to have a vacation at the same place as our honeymoon. My fiance and I have our wedding coming up in April. We had brainstormed for a while on where best to spend our honeymoon. We went over the more popular and well-known places but then landed on a more offbeat destination that I felt would truly be a great place for us to start our life as a married couple. I've been looking forward to it just being the two of us. I know he has a really hectic work schedule and we were going to make the most out of this. A couple of days ago he told me that his parents had been impressed by how hyped I was about it and were planning on going there for a vacation too, largely overlapping with our dates. They're staying at the same hotel as us. I was livid. They can go any other time, why now? He said he had suggested that but his mom said they had taken time off for the wedding too, and it worked well into their plans. Also, that since we're going to be going back it'll allow them to maybe see us a few times before we leave. I was almost in tears, I was so angry. He tried to reassure me saying they had promised it'll be two separate things and they won't be inserting themselves in our honeymoon, they want us to enjoy it, and they'd be doing their own thing. I want to believe it but I know his mom, I like her as a soon-to-be MIL but she can be very clingy and routinely laments how far he, and now us, are from them, so I just have a feeling the two plans are not going to be as independent as he thinks they'll be. I vented about it to my parents too. My mom agreed with me that this isn't right, my dad is more on the fence about it, he doesn't think everything is ruined. I've demanded my fiancé make them change their plans, he says he asked them to, they promised to do their own thing, what can he do? Tell them he doesn't believe them and call them liars. I messed up here and said if that's what it takes. He got quiet, I realized that was too much and sincerely apologized for crossing the line. This has been eating me up, I was envisioning a certain type of honeymoon and this happened. Aita. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, NTA as much as it sucks the only way to truly secure an IL-free honeymoon would be to cancel your plans and go somewhere else. Not ideal, but there's no way you're not going to accidentally bump into them the whole time they're there. Reply, a few other comments have said this too. I truly appreciate what you're saying and I know I'm overreacting here, but this makes me want to bawl my eyes out. Commenter, NTA. I would personally change the hotel, or the dates, or both, or stay at a different hotel the dates they're going to be there. Also, a no cell phone policy, so they can't get a hold of you. But to be honest, this is a husband problem and not an in-law problem. He should have shut her down point blank at even the suggestion of going to your honeymoon destination at the same time. Reply, dates can't be changed really, like I'd be okay with that but I know it wouldn't work for him, he had to move around some work stuff for us to finally land on these dates. A different hotel could work but this is like a coastal area and I really wanted a hotel close to the beach but I'll start looking for some others too. This hotel had really good reviews too. And because it's not a huge city or something, if people want to meet, it's not too inconvenient which sucks because what if they decide they do want to meet? And what if we meet on the beach? I'd have to change what I plan on wearing too. I'm just really hoping they change their plan because quite honestly if I'm the one that has to change plans, I might not end up being a good DIL. Commenter. Why do you have to change what you're wearing? It's your honeymoon. If they have a problem with what you're wearing, then remind them A, this is your honeymoon, 2, they said they would do their own thing so they should go do that, and finally, 3, it's your honeymoon. Reply, there were a couple of bikinis that I had bought for the beach which would definitely be considered tacky to wear in front of in-laws. I thought over this more. I was heartened by the response here because I thought I was the one being OTT about this, but I can see that most people agree that what they're doing isn't right. I really don't want to change plans. I'm going to see him after work and just stress how important it is to me that they not come. I'm going to talk about them respectfully but be firm, because last time I went a little over the line I feel which derailed our conversation. Commenter, a simple hotel change to the other side of wherever and they don't need to know what hotel. Ask to be checked in by another name or something. Bring candy and make friends with the front desk staff, bring them pastries. They will die for you and make sure your MIL never knows you're there. Reply, I spoke to him just now that I was considering switching hotels at least. He said he's on board with that if I decided the same hotel was too much, but said he'd appreciate if it could be a surprise once we land. So at least that's an option. Commenter, part of a longer comment extreme info diet for now on. The in-laws only find out about your vacation plans when you get back and show them the pics. Reply, yeah, I messed up here a bit. He'd told me back then that he hadn't told his parents yet that we'd confirmed our honeymoon destination. But he didn't tell me why, otherwise I'd have followed his cue. Then when she asked me later in a call, I'd told her where we were going and hyped up the place. I so regret that now. Mini update in comments. When we met I raised the issue with him again. I said that he knows how much I'd be looking forward to our honeymoon, I only plan on having it once, and his parents being there will ruin it for both of us. I also said that I didn't want to change anything about it, not the hotel nor the destination, it just wasn't fair. He said he doesn't like that they're coming either, but they're giving their word to not interfere. But to me it's not about believing them, just that the honeymoon I had in mind is going to get ruined with them around. I told him that this wasn't a trivial annoyance for me, this was actually making me unhappy and I need him to do something about it. He said he'll handle it by tonight. Well, first he told me that knowing his parents, especially his mom, she is going to feel slighted by us. We're going to be living a 4-hour flight away from them, so it's not like we're going to see them too often, but he said he just wanted me to know that was going to happen. I said I'm fine with that, probably could have been more tactful, but he found it amusing. He said he'll handle it by tonight, so I'm waiting now, I guess. I'm honestly really proud of myself for having brought it up again and how I said what I had to say. I came straight here to brag. Update post, February 28, 2025, next day, 2 days from OG post. Hi, thank you for the advice in the original post. I thought over this more. I was heartened by the response here because I thought I was the one being OTT about this, but I saw that most people agreed that what they're doing isn't right. I really didn't want to change plans, so I planned to talk to him again, speaking respectfully about his parents but firm, because last time I had gone over the line a bit which had derailed our conversation. We met yesterday after work, I raised the issue with him again. I said that he knows how much I'd be looking forward to our honeymoon, I only plan on having it once, and his parents being there will ruin it for both of us. I also said that I didn't want to change anything about it, not the hotel or the destination, it just wasn't fair. He said he doesn't like that they're coming either, but they're giving their word to not interfere. But to me it's not about believing them, just that the honeymoon I had in mind is going to get ruined with them around. I told him that this wasn't a trivial annoyance for me, this was actually making me unhappy and I need him to do something about it. He said he'll handle it. Well, first he told me that knowing his parents, especially his mom, she is going to feel slighted by us. We're going to be living a 3-hour flight away from them, so it's not like we're going to see them too often, but he said he just wanted me to know that was going to happen. I said I'm fine with that, probably could have been more tactful, but he found it amusing. He said he'll handle it, so I waited. Last night he told me his parents were canceling their plan. I asked him how it went, he said it went fine, they said it would be 2 separate plans, but he told them their plan was becoming a problem, and asked them to change their plan, it would mean a lot to him. So they did. They hadn't booked tickets yet, but they're looking into either getting a refund on their hotel reservations or my fiance suggested delaying it to some time later in the future. I told him I was sorry that he'd been put in this position, but I was so happy about it. I started tearing up too, this had just been bearing on me so heavily, and I was so glad it was back to the way I have it in my mind. Also, I know the stress of wedding and work has been bearing on him too, and I didn't like adding this extra stress onto him either. He said it was a very short and simple convo with his parents. I thought there'd be a big argument because they hadn't been swayed previously. My parents were also really happy for me. My dad thinks it wouldn't hurt to call my MIL and just apologize for what happened, not in a "I'm sorry I did this" way, but more of a "I'm sorry this happened" way. My mom thinks there's no need. My fiance thinks it's up to me. I'm really glad I came here and found out I wasn't overreacting, or I wouldn't have had the confidence to ask for my honeymoon back. Thank you. Mini update, edit, there won't be any apologies. His parents had asked for pictures from us during our honeymoon, I'm not sending shit. His mom complained about me to my mom, that I'm not making an effort to become a part of the family, how hostile I was, and how I didn't understand the importance of relationships. My mom stood up for me, and said I have no duty to anyone except my soon-to-be husband. I take back whatever I might have said about me generally liking my soon-to-be MIL, I'm done. They've cancelled their vacation, that's what I wanted, I'm going to smile for the family pictures at the wedding, and once we fly out I'm done with her. OOP clarifies. Commenter, I don't think you should apologize either, but why did you react that way when they simply asked for a picture? I'm not sending shit, I'm done with her, they cancelled like you wanted, rightfully so, and kept their distance, why are you getting so combative? Commenter 1, because she complained to my mom a few hours ago. About how she knew I must have been the one who had a problem with their plan, how I was being hostile, and didn't understand the importance of relationships, how I wasn't trying to become a part of the family. This is after I've been extending goodwill and respect every step of the way. Editor's note, OOP also posted in another subreddit, but that subreddit does not allow for cross-posting, so I did not include it here. Stories number 21. Should my brother, 17M, and I, 17F, invite my brothers, 32M, crush, 30M, to Chinese New Year dinner? We come from a conservative East Asian family. My brother came out years ago, but my parents reacted so badly he basically went back into the closet. This was all before I was born. 4 years ago, my parents moved back to our home country as their business was doing better there and left my brother and I with my older brother, and we've been doing great. I only see my parents twice a year. He's also started to come out again, and my parents don't do anything because they are too far away, and also they don't want to ruin our education or income by having my brother refuse to take care of us, so they pretend not to know. My brother and I are supportive though. The thing is, there's a little Asian cafe that opened up at the start of last year, and it's got all kinds of handmade Asian sweets and pastries, both traditional and fusion. It's run by a brother and sister, and the brother is the baker barista and he's gay. My brother has a huge crush on him. I know because we got to the cafe every Saturday morning for family breakfast, and they always make heart eyes at each other and smile a lot. The sister also always makes her brother serve mine when he comes in every day and is always talking up her brother to mine. We all go to the cafe every day, my older brother every day before work and us after school, and I think they really like us because they give us extra snacks and stuff. My brother and I also talk up our older brother to her brother, but none of them have made a move. His sister has also told us that her brother has a crush on ours. Chinese New Year is coming around soon, and I'm wondering if my brother and I should invite them around since their family is also overseas. My oldest brother normally makes a traditional dinner. The sister has said that they don't have any plans for Chinese New Year, and my brother's crush has offered to give me the recipe to make Chinese New Year desserts. Can I or my brother invite him over to our house for help when my oldest brother will be around? He's offered teach me to make them anyway, or should I leave it? TLDR, should I invite my brother's crush to our Chinese New Year dinner? Notable comments. Commenter 1. Ask your brother, but frame it as inviting both the crush and his sister since they don't have family nearby to celebrate the new year with dramatic flourish with teary eyes. Commenter 2. This is something you should talk to your older brother about first, and you should suggest inviting both his crush and his crush's sister, so it's not just a romantic setup thing, that will take some pressure off. Like, it's an awesome idea, both having them over for the new year and the crush over to help you with the recipe, but you should clue your older brother into what your plans are instead of just going ahead without him to surprise him. Chances are he'll like the idea and be really excited, if nervous. Also, don't set your expectations at setting them up to be in a romantic relationship because so much of that is out of your control, despite the obvious signs you're seeing, and instead focus on it just being a happy celebration with a couple of people you all get along with and see often. Commenter 3. I would frame it to your brother as, we really like brother and sister, they're so sweet. And they have no one to spend the Chinese New Year with. I think that they would really love it if we invited them. I know it's a huge imposition, but would that be okay with you? Frame it as something more innocuously, so he doesn't feel ambushed, but I think that he'll want to say yes, smiley face. Update. My twin brother and I talked to my oldest brother yesterday about inviting the brother and sister over for Chinese New Year because they didn't have any family. He just laughed at us and said yes, it was fine, and said he knew exactly what we were up to with the baker brother, but in like a really smirky kind of way. I think they've already been talking or maybe even dating, but he refused to say any more than that and kept telling us to get ready for school and that good things take time, and acting all wise and older brotherly and just annoying. So I told him he'd better get married by the end of the year so I could get more red pockets next Chinese New Year, and he just laughed at me. When I went to the cafe after school today, his crush told me that my brother had invited them over for Chinese New Year, so I was, oh really? And he kind of laughed at me too and told me I was a good sibling. So they are clearly together or together adjacent or something. Maybe they want to announce it on Chinese New Year. But when my brother asked me what I wanted to eat on Chinese New Year, I gave him a list of wedding foods and he asked me if I was getting married. But he's just been laughing at me and my brother the whole time. So we've just been annoying each other back and forth until he bought us ice cream to shut us up, but he did give us hugs out of the blue today, so I think I'll just leave it at that and they can take their own time with whatever it is they have going on. But I do kind of want to tease him about it because I have little sister privileges and I can only abuse them for another year. TLDR, update, looks like there's already something going on and they are coming for Chinese New Year, but my brother is being coy. Stories number 22. Aita for threatening legal action against my mom, brother, and future SIL for stealing the only inheritance I have from my grandmother. I've been receiving messages non-stop from my maternal family and my siblings, and it has me second-guessing if what I'm doing is going too far. This past Christmas, I saw on social media that my brother proposed to my future SIL, who we'll call Amy. I was initially happy for them until I saw the ring, which Amy posted photos of. I immediately recognized it as my grandmother's engagement ring, and phoned my mom to ask if she had given my brother the ring as a placeholder. She brushed me off, saying that no, she gave him the ring on purpose because I hate Christmas and Amy loves it. Context: I had always been closer to my paternal side of the family, especially my grandma. My grandmother passed away last year, and the only inheritance I got is her engagement ring. I was not meant to receive this ring until I'm 30. My grandmother loved Christmas, and it showed in her engagement ring. It's an emerald-cut diamond with tiny circle rubies and oval emeralds to look like holly. Also, I didn't always hate Christmas. 2 years back, I lost my BF of 10 years, my childhood BFF, and my sorority sister in a car accident coming home from a Christmas party that we all attended. I have been in therapy, struggling with survivor's guilt, but am doing better now. I told my mom that the ring technically was meant to be mine and that she couldn't take it. She told me that she had a box of my grandmother's jewelry and I could just pick something else. I was stewing for a few days before contacting my paternal uncle, who is the executor. He was furious and told me that my mom had said she was going to give me the ring as a Christmas gift. He then said he could be in touch with a lawyer if I wanted to press charges. We talked for a bit more before hanging up. Armed with this information, I texted my mom, brother, and future SIL, saying that I had been in touch with my uncle and that I would press charges if the ring was not returned to either me or my uncle. My brother tried to say he really wanted to use the ring, that since I hated Christmas that I didn't deserve it. I let them text me, using their threats as future evidence. I told them they had a week to return the ring or I'd follow through with the police. Now, my mother's side of the family, as well as my other siblings, are hounding me. They all think I'm blowing things up. I'm not, I know I'm not, but with how everybody is acting I feel like I'm going crazy. Aita for threatening legal action against my mom, brother, and SIL for stealing my only inheritance. Top comments. Commenter 1, NTA, that's your ring. Your mom, bro, and SIL have no claim to it. File that report. Commenter 2, if I was Sil I would be absolutely mortified and immediately return the ring and seriously reconsider WTF my fiance was thinking. NTA and absolutely sue, this is so unconscionable. And because you don't like Christmas is masterpiece of gaslighting. I mean, if anything it would make the ring even more important to you as it is the one beautiful thing that can give an utterly devastating trauma some hope. At a minimum your mom not even asking you is territory, but this almost amounts to NC, and I always think people exaggerate that need, but wow. Commenter 3, NTA your mother is, as well as your brother and future SIL. Give them a very specific deadline and be very specific that if it's not met, you will file a report with the police. Commenter 4, hi, I'm surprised to hear that you think people should be okay when others steal their valuables. Does that mean I can come by your house and steal your stuff, and you will be fine with it, or are you only okay with stealing if it's done to someone else? Just send this to anyone hounding you. Update. Hey y'all. Before we get into the update, there are a few points I want to make clear that have been brought up from my last point. First, my mom and paternal grandmother were on good terms before her passing. They weren't besties by any means, but they were kind to each other, hence why my mother got a box of her jewelry, which mostly consists of brooches, but does offer a few of her better pieces like her locket and a charm bracelet. Second, my father passed of a heart condition the year I graduated middle school, which is why he's not dealing with my mom. Since his death, my paternal family has really tried to bridge the gap he left, hence why I'm so close with them. And finally, yes, I understand my username may lead to the conclusion that this is fake. But, I do write fan fiction, this is just a second account since all my siblings know my main. But, maybe I'll start posting stories in the stories subreddit and use this as my writing account. Who knows, lol. Now. Time for the update. The day after I posted, Amy, future SIL, texted me privately and asked me to meet up with her in secret. We organized a meeting for the next day at one of the local diners to grab lunch and talk. Meeting her was weird, since I didn't know how she would gauge the situation. Amy has never been mean-spirited, just blunt, not the rude kind of blunt either, she just a woman of a few words kind of deal. A few of the comments said she was the for accepting it, but the fact is she hasn't been in the family long enough to know about my connection to the ring. She had only met my grandmother once or twice before my grandmother got sick. Once we sat down, she told me to tell her about my grandmother. Which, I initially thought was weird, but I got to telling her some childhood stories about my grandmother. How I would help her pick tomatoes from her garden to make fresh sauce, how we used to go on her porch and just watch the sunset, how during Christmas Mass she always held my hand walking up down the large steps, since the crowds would often lead to me being separated. Long story short, Amy seemed reminiscent about the situation before she immediately apologized. She hadn't known about the ring, just that it was a family ring, and that it meant she was one of us now. When she had seen the text, she confronted my brother, who brushed it off as, OP is just being dramatic, it's not like it's the only piece she has, which is true, I actually do have my grandmother's pearl earrings and her pearl necklace, but that was a sweet 16 gift, not inheritance. That got Amy mad and she went to stay with her family. She apparently had been in my shoes before, having been gypped by her older relatives regarding her own grandmother's inheritance. She returned the ring and said she plans to break off the engagement. I told her to really think about that. She then smiled and said that she couldn't be a part of a family that was so backhanded and cruel. We talked for a bit more and left on good terms. My brother really dropped the ball, she was a good one. Yesterday, my mom called me and told me I had gone too far, and now Amy doesn't want to be a part of the family. I asked her what she expected when Amy was a good-hearted person who probably wouldn't want to marry into a family of liars and thieves. She said my brother was distraught when he came home and found she had left with her things. I told her maybe if they didn't try to take my ring, then maybe Amy wouldn't look at them like they were bad people and maybe she'd want to still marry my brother. My mom called me a slew of names before hanging up. I asked my uncle that, now that I have the ring, could I just keep it? My uncle said that was fine, since he knew I had a safe that I could keep it in. It's a fancy, fingerprint one where I keep my registered firearm and legal documents. He just made sure to document me receiving the ring so that this way he didn't go nutty trying to find it for my 30th birthday. I now wear it on my middle finger, since it's a little too big for my ring finger. I went on a date with my we've been dating 9-10 months, partner this morning, and they loved it. I plan to post a photo of us tonight or tomorrow, see how much I can stir the pot. Thanks to all who supported me, I knew I wasn't crazy. I've been the least favorite kid for years and I've just gotten used to having to share or give up things. But, my grandmother's ring was my hill to die on, and depending on how their behavior is, I may go NC, am currently LC due to this drama. Top comments. Commenter 1, brother's loss here. But obviously, Amy can do better. Commenter 2, what Amy didn't say, but I will, is who in their right mind would marry a man who treats his sister like this or one MIL who treats their own daughter like this? If this is how they treat OP, just imagine how they'd treat Amy after the wedding. Commenter 3, your brother and mother showed Amy who they are at their core. People that would lie and steal from one of their own. Even though she left your brother and broke off the engagement, this is still hard for Amy. She sounds like a genuinely good person, but she was planning to marry your brother and this has to hurt. Reach out to her in a few days to see how she's doing. I'm glad you got your ring back, and to be on the safe side, take the ring to a reputable jeweler and make sure the stones are all securely mounted. Keep it safe always. Stay low to no contact with your brother, mother and others that don't see how wrong this was. You deserve better. Update 2. Editor's note, OOP provides an apology regarding a word she used in her prior post. Final update, Aita for threatening legal action against my mom, brother, and future SIL for stealing the only inheritance I have from my grandmother. Okay, a few things I wanted to say before I finally tell you guys how everything wrapped up. Number 1, and most importantly, I am so sorry for using that word. I had no idea the origin of the word gypt was derived from gypt as in gypsies, and is a slur against the Romani people. I apologize for using the word and will phase it from my vocabulary. I meant no offense by using it in my post and really do apologize if I did offend someone. Secondly, I took the advice of some people and didn't block my family, which worked in my favor. Lastly, I really appreciate all the support I have received, it means the world to me. So, the top thing I should mention is about Amy. She recently moved, wanting a mostly fresh start. Her and I are still friends on social media, since we share common hobbies and interests. However, she wanted a mostly clean break, and only remains in LC with me, her cousin, and her best friend. According to her pictures on social media, she's doing pretty well for herself. I am so proud of her. Next thing is my family. After a few days of posts, I kept receiving texts, emails, and letters from family. Yes, I got letters, that surprised me too. I got annoyed at all the harassment and sent all the screenshots of my conversations with my mom, brother, the group chat with them and Amy, and my uncle, all with highlighted parts that showed they were wrong. Suffice to say that most of the family iced them out. The only ones who are still on my mom and brother's sides are my youngest sibling. I don't think they have a choice since they still live with mom and are being forced to, and our one cousin who lives hours away, one of those alpha giga Chad men the internet loves to mock. So, I'm not too worried anymore. Finally, me. I'm doing great. I recently started sewing since I want to start getting into cosplay, and I began doing yoga every morning. My partner and I still have date nights often, mostly consisting of board games, video games, or movies. Who has money to go out in this economy, lol. We even looked into rescuing a bird. My partner is allergic to dander and they already suffer cause of my other pets, so this pet is for them. Right now, my mom and brother haven't done anything illegal, but I did get security cameras just in case. The harassment has stopped, my partner and I are happy, Amy is doing well, and life is sweet. I think this is it, my mom and brother have finally realized they lost this fight, and I couldn't be happier, smiley face. Stories number 23. My dad is having an affair with my sister's girlfriend. Hey Reddit, I need some advice. I'm trying to do as much damage control as possible before telling the people involved. Throwaway account for privacy. I just found out that my father, 56M, is cheating on my mother, 58F, with my sister's, 34F, girlfriend, 33. I wish this weren't true, but it is. My younger sister who still lives at home discovered it and came to me. She set up a camera in my parents' room and recorded a conversation between my dad and my sister's girlfriend, which confirmed everything. Now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle this before we tell my mom and sister. My biggest concern is making sure my mom can stay in the house they're renting. They've been living there for 15 years plus, so that my sister has a place to move into once everything comes out. I don't think my dad will make a fuss, and I figure he will want to leave to let things die down. But who knows, the world doesn't make sense anymore. Now with my sister, she has been raising a family with the cheating woman. They've been together for about 6 years, and her girlfriend has 2 kids, biologically hers. I also can't shake the thought that the youngest, 2 years old, might actually be my dad's, depending on when this affair started. This whole situation is beyond complicated, and I have no idea how they're all going to react. My priority is protecting my mom and sister while keeping things from spiraling even further out of control, which given this situation, can very much happen. Aside from figuring out how to approach this, I really want to make sure my sister has support. She likely has undiagnosed high-functioning autism and/or Asperger's, which has always made it very difficult for her to make friends. Because of this, she tends to form strong attachments when she does connect with someone and holds on dearly to them, which makes this situation much more sadistic, since it seems our father cares very little about stripping her from the only person she has ever been with. It's obvious that she knows her girlfriend has cheated, continues to cheat on her ex with men. Both of their children were conceived while they were together. But this is different since it's with our dad. On top of that, her girlfriend has always been inconsistent in their relationship. She claims she isn't bisexual, but still stays in the relationship with my sister. A part of me has always suspected that she was using my sister for help raising her kids. I want to make sure my sister has access to resources, especially ones that can support her as someone who may be neurodivergent and in a difficult and toxic relationship where the cheater has dug her claws deep in her. We're in the Bay Area. Does anyone have recommendations? Overall, please any help or guidance on to deal with this will be very much appreciated. Edit. Hey everyone, sorry that I have been MIA. As you can all guess from all this, my life has felt surreal since yesterday. I've read all your comments, have tried to respond the best I can, and have taken into account all the things that have been said. I want to address a few things. 1. Not that it matters, I am actually a guy, 30M. 2. This is not a secret that I can carry without disclosing it to my family. Besides, there are 3 other people aside from myself that know what's going on: my younger sister, her partner, my partner, and our cousin. 3. My mother is very strong. It's a quality that I have always admired. This is not the first time my dad has cheated. We've caught him before when I was in high school. My mother carried our family out of hell, but this situation is obviously very different. I know she will find a way. I'm more worried about my sister. She has given her life and love to those kids. She cherishes them in a very beautifully motherly way. I don't know how she will react when she hears this. 4. I have not given my relationship with my dad much thought. Our relationship has had its rough moments, but we have gotten closer in the recent years. I thought he was changing his ways, but I now know that he spent his time perfecting his deception. 5. I wish this were not true, I truly do. But unfortunately it is. I know it's not fair to think this way, but I keep thinking, why is this happening to my family? As if this disaster should be another family's issue. I know we will find a way through it, but it's gonna be rough. Stories number 24. Aita for telling my husband to finally do something on his own. My husband grew up in a wealthy family. He's had everything handed to him and still does. We are both 28 and his parents still pay for his car insurance and lease. My husband just pays for rent. I wanted to buy a home as my husband has a good amount of savings, and I told my husband we'd put the house in his name since the money is his. His mom offered to pay for the entire house so that there'd be no mortgage, however the house would be in his mom's name. His mom said we just have to pay her the property tax which we do monthly. I felt uncomfortable with the idea as I told my husband it won't feel like our house. Just feels like we're renting a home. If we have the money, why not just put a down payment and pay mortgage? At least it's something that we're doing ourselves. We got into a big argument and now I feel like maybe I'm being too shallow. I just want to add, I do work, however my income is lower than his and his savings is from a savings his mom already gave him. I contribute to paying half of rent, bills, car stuff, streaming apps, groceries, etc. We do half of everything. Stories number 25. My M28 girlfriend, F28, of 3 years just admitted why she's with me, and now I'm questioning everything. Hello everyone. Yesterday, my girlfriend of 3 years opened up to me about something that's been on my mind ever since. For some background, we've known each other since high school and even dated back then. But when I moved to another country for better opportunities, we broke up due to the distance. Over the next 8 years, I tried multiple times to get her to move here, but she stayed in our home country and had serious relationships with other people. I visited 3 times over those 8 years, and every time we saw each other, we'd reconnect, but the distance always made it short-lived. Eventually, she decided to follow me here, and we've been together for the last 3 years. Since then, we've had to get to know each other all over again because we've both changed a lot. It was like falling in love with a new person, which we expected, but it hasn't been easy. We've had a lot of fights and have both been toxic at times, but we've always kept trying because we genuinely care about each other. Now, back to last night. We were talking about how much she's matured recently, and she mentioned that she's realizing she needs to handle her own problems rather than relying on others. She's 28 now. I found that odd and pointed out that, until now, she's always expected her dad or her boyfriend to handle things for her. This conversation came up while we were discussing our finances. For context, my family is doing well, not rich, but they own a few properties and have decent jobs. They also help us out with groceries and gifts. I, on the other hand, work in well-known companies and am highly educated, so people assume I make a lot, but I don't yet. However, I have strong investments, a good property, which I bought myself, and overall, a solid financial foundation. She then opened up about how she feels like we're struggling as a couple and said that if we had kids right now, we wouldn't even be able to afford going out for dinner. What really stuck with me was when she admitted that, with past partners, she felt ready for kids much earlier because they were financially stable, but with me, she doesn't, because I'm not there yet. That really bothered me. I told her we're not struggling, we own property, go out often, and are doing fine. Then I made what I now realize was a mistake. I asked, can you imagine if you ended up with guys she liked in high school instead? Her response: I never would. She then explained why. All of her past partners came from wealthy families, and if she weren't with me, she'd probably be with someone rich. She said I'm the only guy she didn't choose for money, she chose me because she saw my potential to become rich since I'm smart. That really threw me off. It made me wonder, if I weren't living in a country with better opportunities or if my family wasn't financially comfortable, would she have ever considered being with me? For context, my girlfriend isn't educated, never had a high-paying job back home, she was making minimum wage, and her family barely gets by financially. Yet she expects a lot from a partner. To be fair, she's never shown obvious gold-digging behavior, we split everything 50-50 and contribute equally to our mutual account. But I can't shake the feeling that her mindset about relationships and financial security is different from mine. In the past, I've told her that sometimes she makes me feel like I'm her dad because she expects me to handle things for her. She always got mad when I said that, until last night, when she finally admitted it. Now, I just feel turned off. I really value a woman who works hard, is independent, and has career ambitions. I don't know what to make of all this. Has anyone else experienced something similar in a relationship? Update 1. We are currently making the same amount of money but I'm expect to make much more within the next few years. Update 2. Parents are helping out so we can save more and be able to buy an investment property soon. Stories number 26. Whipta for keeping something I bought as a gift. I, 25F, will try to make this as short and sweet as possible. Also sorry for any formatting errors, I'm on mobile and I'm in the middle of working a double on no sleep, but this has been bothering me for about 3 days now. At the onset of the pandemic, my husband, 26M, and I wound up unemployed and had to move in with my parents. My dad, 50-ish, and my stepmom, 40-ish, are the most wonderful humans in the world. My stepmom's mother, who I'll refer to as Marie from here on, late 70s-ish, not so much. We moved in at the end of October, after our lease expired at our previous residence, and a couple of days after moving in, Marie asked my husband and I if we had any Christmas wishes, and was adamant that price was no object. She's made it very clear in the past 17 years that she didn't want her daughter marrying my father, and that the added baggage of my sister and I made it even less ideal, but I assumed because she asked me that maybe she wanted to bury the hatchet, so I was honest. I mentioned wanting a new sewing machine. I showed her the one I wanted, which is about $200. I didn't think much of the exchange until last Friday, 12/18. Marie was leaving to go to see family a few states over for the holidays, so she called the family to come over so she could hand out gifts. I was just getting home from work, so my cousins, aunts and uncles had already begun opening their gifts. 3 of my cousins and one of my aunts got the exact sewing machine I had shown Marie. All the other kids got stuff like video games, hoodies, sneakers, and gift cards to different places. I admittedly got a little excited. I went last. Marie handed me my gift, I opened it, and it was a sewing machine box, filled with new towels. She said, "I know you guys are having money troubles, thought that might be helpful." I waited until everyone left, but was genuinely upset because I know that she knows we have towels, washcloths, etc. because we brought them with us from our old place, and we have our own designated cupboard for those things in our bathroom. When I got my new job, I took my first and second paycheck, and started buying gifts for everyone. I spent nearly $150 to order a giant hand-woven, dyed, and beaded tapestry from a local indigenous bead artist for Marie. I wanted to get her something I knew she would love and cherish because I thought maybe we were getting past the previous 17 years of hostility. She and I are both close to 50% indigenous, and it's a big part of her lifestyle and aesthetic, as it is mine. I genuinely don't know at this point if she was trying to be malicious, but I feel she was, having me open it in front of everyone, and I felt absolutely humiliated. My stepmom and dad agree with me and say I should keep it, as does my husband, but when I asked a few family friends, they said they think it sounds like I'm mad that I didn't get an expensive gift. I feel it's blatant favoritism. Would I be the asshole if I kept the tapestry for myself? Edit for clarity, because of work, I was unable to go pick up Marie's gift in time for the gift exchange, which is why she hasn't gotten it yet. Verdict, not the asshole. Relevant comments. OOP added this info. I knew I forgot to mention something, damn it. The artist I ordered the tapestry from is about 1.5 hours away from our house, and I didn't have time to go get it before Em had to leave for the airport, so she told me not to worry about it, I could just give it to her when she got back. Commenter 1. Info. What happened to the sewing machine that was in the box that towels came in? I doubt she or the store just had an extra box laying around. I don't know why I'm stuck on that, just seems odd that she'd have the box without the sewing machine. NTA, keep your thoughtful gift, and if you feel obligated to get her one, get her a gift card to some place she likes to eat or something easy. Maybe one of your cousins would gift you theirs, since you told them what happened. I know I wouldn't want a sewing machine, I'd totally give it to you if it was gifted to me, and to be especially petty, I'd do it in front of your grandma. Reply. She took one of my cousin's sewing machines out of the box and packed it into a larger box with a case for her sewing machine because she travels for college and would be carrying it back and forth. She's the only other person in the family that sews, so it's sensible. Commenter 2. NTA. You're unsure if she acted with malice. She did. This was 100% intentional, malicious, bona fide dickbaggery. Keep the thingy. This was a declaration of war on you, so even after keeping the thingy, strike back in similar fashion when and where you can. If she's not a broken, whimpering pile of misery pudding by the time you're done with her, she wins. I'm rooting for you. Reply. Okay, you're my hero for this. Commenter 3. I was just mad for you. Be careful not to alienate other members of your family if you take the advice above. If things go sour between you and your stepmom because of this, then I will be the asshole. Reply. I'm not going to give her the tapestry, I'm going to give it a friend who is also indigenous and will appreciate it, but I'll be getting her a shitty generic return gift now. Commenter 4. NTA. Come on, why are you even asking? This is one of those, my coworker kicked my puppy and called me stupid, AITA for being mad, questions. Reply. I'm asking because I got opposing opinions and I wanted to know if I'd be justified in keeping it if I chose to do so. Commenter 5. I think the answer is so obvious, that the only reason you could possibly get conflicting opinions is if you presented the story differently to someone else. What you wrote here paints a vivid picture that leaves no doubt in anyone's mind what you should do and how you should feel about it. If you left anything out or misrepresented anything, then you didn't get a genuine answer from us. So it comes down to the question of whether you came here looking for advice, or looking to be validated. You're the only one that knows the answer. If you gave us the whole story, enjoy your tapestry. Reply. Yeah, honestly, this has me thinking I probably need new friends, because everything I said here is what I told them, word for word in our group chat. Update. I called my stepmom on my 15-minute break and told her that I would not be giving her the gift and that I would be getting her something else. I don't know what yet, but I'm sure I can come up with a shitty generic gift between now and New Year's. Thank you all so much for your honesty and candor. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Have you also spoken to the rest of your family? I can't imagine what kind of terrible person would just sit by and watch this happen and not say a word. Reply. I've spoken to my stepmom, and she's planning on sitting Em down with me and my dad when Marie returns and basically everyone telling her that her actions were unacceptable. Commenter 2. Wow. Your stepmom is stellar, but I wouldn't get your hopes up this will go well. Reply. I'm absolutely prepared for it to be a shit show, but I'm sticking to my guns, and I'm going to be kind, calm, and precise. Update 2. Update Part 2. Met with my stepmom for an early lunch. Here at about 2 p.m. CST, she's expecting a family Skype call from Marie, and she's going to address it head-on there, in front of the entire family. We'll update further for anyone invested, I guess. Tiny update. Tiny update. My stepmom is taking me to get my sewing machine this afternoon. Thank you so much to everyone who offered to buy or crowdfund one for me. You're all so kind and I love each and every one of you. Happy holidays to all of you. Third and final update. My stepmom started off by saying that she wanted everyone to hush because she had something she wanted to discuss. She went in on how Marie has always been kind and generous, but that this year she was untoward and mean in a very aggressive way, and then she had me tell everyone what she did. She kept trying to get my uncle to end the call, but he refused. My stepmom had let him know beforehand that this all was going down and that he was not to cut the call. I told everyone what happened, as well as some other things she's done over the years, especially around the holidays. Marie was mortified. I showed her the tapestry and told her the thought process that went behind this being my gift for her, how much I had hoped that her seemingly going out of her way to get me a gift was finally a chance for us to bridge the gap between us and have a relationship, and then informed her that I would be gifting the tapestry to someone else who actually deserved my kindness. I told her she could expect to find her gift in her room when she returned home, and that I don't care if she apologizes or doesn't, because the damage is done, my sister and I did nothing to deserve the treatment we've been given, and that I have no desire to be anything more than cordial with her from this point on, whether we live in the same house or not. I've decided to just buy her some cheap scented candles and call it a day. My younger cousins decided they do not want their sewing machines, as did my aunt. They all decided they're going to give me one of them, and try to get refunds on the other two, and we're all going to do some sort of spa day together. My stepmom took over again after that because I got emotional and she laid into Marie for making a public spectacle of her trickery and words were had between them, but my stepmom held fast. We ended the call shortly after. My stepmom and I are on the way to my aunt's to porch pick up my new sewing machine. I also reached out to the now former friends to let them know that I don't appreciate them siding with Marie and making me second-guess myself, and that I will be civil, but nothing more, as I didn't deserve their harsh judgments. The tapestry has been packed up nicely and will be shipped to one of my absolute best friends tomorrow so that he can love and appreciate it, because it's beautiful and deserves to be cherished. Thank you to each and every one of you for your honesty, and your words, kind and harsh alike. This has really made the holidays so much better for me, and has oddly brought my parents and I even closer. Blessed Yule, happy holidays, I love you all. Stories number 27. Aita for refusing to help my dad's pregnant wife and telling him if I visit her I will confront her about all the crap she's done. I, 18F, live with my mom and I'm a senior in high school. My parents and my dad's wife are a messy situation. My dad dated his wife in high school. I think they started going out when they were 15 and things ended when they were 17 because my dad liked my mom. My parents got together in senior year and stayed together throughout college. I was born right after their college graduations and they broke up when I was 2. After they broke up my dad and his wife reconnected and hooked up a few times. But then my parents got back together for like 4 months. My mom ended things with dad for good because they didn't work as a couple and because she found out my dad had been hooking up with his wife literally the same day they got back together. My mom wanted no part of that, but who does my dad's wife blame for my parents' relationship? My mom. My dad's wife has hated my mom for as long as I can remember. I was maybe 4 when she and my dad got married. So I don't remember life before her. But I disliked her for most of that time. I can't speak for 4 and 5-year-old me. But that POS my dad's married to, and he's a POS too. She wished for my mom to die. My mom had cancer when I was 9 and my dad's wife wished for it to kill her so they could have me and she didn't have to deal with the ex anymore. But my mom didn't die and I know that haunts her. I heard her wish death on my mom 5 different times. Twice she said it to my face when I told her I hated her. The other 3 times she was talking to her family or friends and I listened. My dad's wife blamed my mom for her miscarrying too and having a stillbirth too. She said my mom took dad away from her for so long that she was too old by the time they were trying to have kids. There were a few times my dad at least tried to be a better dad than he was and would tell his wife to stop dragging me into shit or telling me bad things about mom. He fought her because she agreed to take me to see my mom in the hospital one time and she didn't. But honestly mostly he made things worse or he didn't care. He'd ask me to not hold his wife's grudge against her and that it's just insecurity and jealousy on her part. My dad's wife even tried to demand a DNA test be carried out on me because my mom was nothing but a whore and I was clearly not my dad's kid. She tried to spread that rumor around, so mom told dad to do the test and it proved I was his. My mom tried to win custody of me a few times. There was always some BS from the judge about needing my dad and stuff. Or how I was too young to decide. Or that the situation wasn't toxic enough. I was 17 before a brand new judge, we'd had a few, said I was old enough to decide I didn't want to be at my dad's anymore. So that's the choice I made. I didn't go to my dad's house once that decision was reached. Now my dad's wife is pregnant and her pregnancy is high risk and all sorts of stuff. I don't know all the details. She had a surgery and some time in the hospital to help keep her pregnant. Her family stayed for a while but now they're gone and dad wanted me to help. He said she needs people checking in on her and stuff and I refused. He pressed it until I stopped responding. Then he told me after a while of me ignoring his request that it would be just like a visit and I didn't need to do any heavy lifting. So I told him if I visited her I would confront her about all her BS in the past and I asked if he wanted that stress on her now. Or the stress of how repulsive I find her. Dad told me it would be an evil thing for me to do. I told him it was the only reason I'd ever want to see her. He got pissy about it and I went back to ignoring him. Stories number 28. I 21F found out my husband 33M has been having an affair with my mother, and I don't know where to go from here. Sorry, this can be quite a bit to read, however, a lot happened and everything I've written is essential to my situation. I, 21F, have been married to my husband, 33M, for a year and 3 months now. We got together when I was 18 and he was 30 while I was a senior in high school. To a lot of people our relationship is taboo, however, I've always been very mature for my age and it's always felt normal to both of us. My mother, 40F, has always had a soft spot for him which I appreciated. When she first met him she told me I was so lucky to have an amazing person in my life. Throughout our relationship my mom and him got along fine, which I've always thought may just be from their somewhat closeness in age. However, during our wedding is when I started noticing weird behavior from my mom. On my wedding day, she told me she wished she was the one in the gown today, referring to my wedding dress. I asked her what she meant, and she just started laughing saying she's had too much to drink. She also suggested her and my husband have a dance together during my wedding. I immediately laughed because I thought it was a joke, however, now of the current circumstances it was clearly not a joke. Further down the line she would start asking me how he was in bed. I told her I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about that and she said that my aunt was curious. She also started asking my husband sexual questions like what was his favorite position. What are his kinks? If he had ever had a threesome. Genuinely uncomfortable questions that made me grossed out. My suspicion specifically grew throughout the last 3 months. My husband told me my mom asked him to renovate her kitchen, he works in construction, and he would be over there after work Monday through Wednesday. When I offered to join him he said it wasn't necessary and that it would boring for me. When I asked my mom if I should join as well she said I was being a nagging wife asking to come over. However, when he started to visit my mom I noticed sexual changes in our relationship, as when he would come home from work or my mom's he would never be interested in doing it. My suspicions grew further when I visited my mom's place and the kitchen looked the same as before, and when I confronted both of them they said they were still just prepping for the renovation. In this moment I knew something was wrong. I had an urge to know so I left work early and decided to go by my mom's place and see what was happening. When I arrived I wanted to see what they were up to naturally and didn't want them to be alarmed that I was there. Luckily my mom's place has a lot of windows and you can see nearly every room in the house if you just wander around. When I got to the study's window that's when I saw my husband and mother having sex on her desk. I screamed and cried. When they saw me my mom looked down in complete disbelief while my husband ran out of the room. I wasn't there long but ran to my car and drove off hyperventilating. When I got home I just started to pack some clothes and essentials and wanted to leave. I drove off and my phone started blowing up from my husband, mother and auntie, assuming she knew. I drove to an empty car park and sat there for over 4 hours just crying and listening to music. I decided to return to my husband and I's home, as the tears I let go turned into complete anger and distrust. I wanted to confront him. When I arrived home, he was not there and there was also no sign he had even been at our place. I decided that I needed some sleep and thought that maybe he had just stayed in a motel for the night to give me space. When I woke up the next day I was going to call him, however, I thought to myself that I wasn't ready to speak to him. So I called back my auntie, and she told me that he stayed over at my mother's house to be there for her. My mouth dropped and I couldn't even say a single word. My auntie had to keep asking if I was there. I told her if she could set up a meeting with myself, husband and my mother and she said she'll pick me up and take me to my mom's house to talk. When my auntie picked me up she said that my mother told her about their affair and she told her to stop. My mother lied to her saying she had, and yesterday straight after I caught them she said my mother told her she'd been still seeing him and that I'd found out. I told my auntie I was disappointed she didn't tell me and that she's lost my trust, and she seemed to have understood that and complied. When we got to their house, my husband had his arm around my mother while she had her head rested on his shoulder. Keep in mind, I caught them a day ago. My mother stated crying as soon as she saw me and started hugging my husband. That in itself aggravated me. To keep this from not going any longer, they told me that they want to be together and they hope one day I'll accept them. I literally couldn't even feel anything, so I just started laughing in shock. Even my auntie told my mom she was being ridiculous. They claim that they've been in love for a year now and they started sleeping with each other 4 months after my husband and I got married. The craziest claim was that my mother said she sees herself starting a family with him. After they told me everything I sat in silence for a few minutes, and my mom pleaded that I say something. I couldn't. I asked my auntie in that moment to take me home, and she got her keys and got me out of there immediately. As soon as I got in the car she hugged me and I started bawling. She said everything was going to be okay and that she was there for me no matter what. She offered that I stay with her, but I just wanted to be alone. It's been a week since that all happened and I've been at home alone just crying and drinking. I even had some really dark thoughts that honestly terrified me to the point I was going to check myself to the hospital. The worst part is that a part of me wishes I never saw them and lived completely oblivious to their affair. I don't have any friends or anyone in my life, the only person I had was my husband and now that's gone. My mother and I have always had problems in the past as she blamed my father's suicide on me and even faked a suicide note from him saying it was my fault when I was 12. In a way I think this is her way at getting back at me for my dad, as she truly believes that I was the reason he decided to end his life because I was an angry tween. My husband sees my mother as forbidden fruit, which is something that I believe men crave, which is why majority of the time they're the ones that cheat. I am now alone and to be honest have no clear direction for what's next for me. My husband and I agreed I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, which is something I wanted as well. I don't have any interest in college and have never considered what kind of profession would interest me. I've always just wanted to be a mom and a loving wife, and expected that to become my reality. I'm also not smart at all and have no idea what to do legally from here, so any advice on that would be great. I'm sorry this is so long as a lot happened and I wanted to provide as much details to my situation as possible. I would never turn to social media. In the past I'd go to husband, but that's now changed and I didn't have anyone else. Any advice or just thoughts would be appreciated. Update: I 21F found out my husband 33M has been having an affair with my mother, and I don't know where to go from here. This is an update to the post on my page and I just wanted to say thank you everyone that provided helpful feedback, and while I didn't get to everyone, I did read every comment. Relationship advice didn't allow for updates and I got asked, so here it goes. Now I feel as though I have to clarify some things. The post is not fake or AI, I think AI would be able to write better than what I wrote. The story also isn't fake, I really wish it was. This stuff does happen, and yes, I've gone to Reddit about it as I don't have any friends or anyone I can trust, which leads me to my next point. The reason I don't have friends is that when I was in 6th grade my friends all dropped me when my dad killed himself. They all considered me weird for having a dad that died in that sort of way and gossiped about me, and it was considered social suicide to be friends with me. I also developed an ED through body issues that were installed in me by my mom's boyfriends at the time, and this lasted from late middle school all the way up to early senior year. This led to me being in hospital a lot and missing out on a lot of school, which made it hard for me to make friends. When I was at school everyone had their groups, and so I would just eat alone. 3. I do not trust my auntie. My mom and her are very close. They both ran away from home together when my mom was 17 and she was 18. They were raised by strict Pakistani immigrants who were very abusive and cut my mother off when they learned she was with my father, who was white. Since they have only had each other, they will always put each other's best interest first. She also has a special needs son and a small place, so living there would be a huge burden for her. 4. I'm sorry I called myself mature for my age. I've just been told that by teachers and pretty much all adults throughout my life since I was 5 years old. There was a point I was 2 grades ahead, however, my mom decided to put me back in the grade people my age were in for a reason she still struggles to explain to me. 5. My relationship I get was not normal. He approached me at a mall while I was out and asked for my number, and he thought I was a lot older than what I was. He found out halfway through our first date I was 18 and still in school, and he wanted to end it there. However, I really liked him and said we could go for a second date and we can decide together if we want to keep doing this. We both connected really well and opened up to each other like we'd never done to anyone else. We decided we'd start off as friends, and if we end up being comfortable we can pursue a relationship. I was the one who first told him I wanted a relationship. He was very hesitant and didn't want to because he was worried what people would think. He even told me no at one point, and a week later we reconciled and he told me that he loved me and he couldn't stand the idea of not being with me. The only red flag I could see was that he was divorced and that he had a son he barely saw. However, that's due to his ex and son now living in a different state. My husband is a child of Albanian immigrants and he claimed that him and his ex-wife only really shared that in common, otherwise, there was no real love between them. 6. I'm not going to college for the sake of going to college. I want to be a mom and that's all. However, I will look for a job to support myself in the meantime, as the flower shop will not be sustainable. Besides, I think I've lost that job as I haven't gone to 3 of my shifts and have been dodging their calls as to why I haven't been in. Basically a night after I posted to here, my husband came banging on our door that he made a mistake and he was crying. He insisted that my mother was blackmailing him into being with her, and that it was only supposed to be a hookup, and he instantly regretted it. When I found out, he panicked and didn't want to have no one, so agreed to be with my mom. I let him inside and he showed me all of the texts between him and my mom, and a lot of it was my mom telling him to come over, and if he refused she would threaten that she would spill it to me that they were having an affair. He told me he wants us to be together again and he'll do anything for us to be together. I told him I needed space for now and that he needs to leave. He started to get very reluctant and even started getting scary, where he picked up a TV and broke it and started punching himself when I said that. I genuinely started to get scared and told him that I didn't want him doing something stupid, so I called his friend over and he took him to his place to calm him down. The next morning I woke up to him cooking in our kitchen and he made me my favorite breakfast. He told me that he wanted to surprise me with something he knew I loved. I told him I appreciated it, but he needs to leave and that if I were to forgive him it was going to take a long time and that this wasn't going to be fixed overnight. He started crying again and he told me that he can't stay on this earth if he knows that it's not with me. I'm not that dumb and know when I'm being manipulated with, so I told him to get out and that this will take time. That's when he got a frying pan and threw it at the wall. I pushed him out and locked the door. I told him to not come back and I'll see him when I'm ready. Later that day my mother comes and screams outside my door that she knows my husband is here and that I'm stopping them from being together. I told her to leave, otherwise I'm calling the cops, and she did. However, when I walked outside later that day, it's clear she keyed my car and tried to spell out a derogatory word against woman. I called the cops and they told me without footage they can't do anything about it. 2 hours after I called the cops she came back and again demanded that I let her in. I told her to go again, and that's when she tried to pick the lock to my front door, so I called the cops, and the moment she heard I was speaking to them she drove off. I started to feel unsafe where I was and didn't have anywhere to go, so basically I grabbed a bunch of clothes and necessities and took them to my car and have been living in there since. I don't know what I'm gonna do as of now and just hope that I find something. It hasn't been too bad and it's been sustainable for the past day and a bit, but obviously I can't do this forever. My husband did message me saying he came over and has been waiting at our house and is worried that I haven't returned. I told him that he shouldn't be there anyways because I told him I needed space, but I told him that I'm staying in my car till I decided what I want to do. He sent me a bunch of voice messages crying saying I'm torturing myself and that if we're together he'll make sure to take care of me this time. I haven't responded to any of the voice messages directly, however, I am sending him just an update every 4 to 5 hours saying I'm okay. Just so he doesn't panic completely. My auntie hasn't contacted me really since I cried in her car, but as mentioned she has a lot on her plate, so I don't particularly blame her or anything. But that's the update. I'm homeless in a car and have no real direction, lol. I did want to thank you all for the legal advice and will hopefully find a time to get sorted on that. I also have a GP appointment tomorrow with a doctor about STDs, so fingers crossed that all goes well. I'm sure I'll find something, however, for now it's a bit shit for me. Update 2: I21F found out my husband 33M has been having an affair with my mother, and I don't know where to go from here. I don't know if you guys want another update after this one because I'm sure there'll be more that'll happen later on, however, I feel like this would practically become a diary, lol. I'm glad to announce I'm not in a car anymore and am living in a woman's shelter. An hour after I posted my last update, a man was following my car and he looked really nervous, like he was contemplating something. He was doing this for about 35 to 40 minutes. I even tested by going down no-through roads and stuff and he would follow me in and out of them. So I followed the advice you guys gave and went to a woman's shelter. I had to get questioned by someone, and I essentially just explained that I didn't feel safe going home as my husband did smack my head while I was kicking him out and he and my mother have been harassing me. They didn't really do much follow-up after that and they were really nurturing with settling me in, and a lot of the women introduced themselves to me. I haven't been in such a supportive environment before. In fact, this may sound dumb as it's a literal shelter, but I don't want to leave. I've made a lot of friends in the least 4 or so days and I feel genuinely happy. I've made this one really good friend who is the exact same age as me. She told me she's staying here as her stepdad is really violent and the amount of bruises she has is really saddening. It made me cry when started to explain to me how she received every bruise she got. We even got to talking about finding somewhere to live together, which has made me really excited. I've also made a lot of other friends, from a lot of diverse backgrounds and situations that have really opened my world. As to my husband, he recently sent me a text that has made me assured that I don't want to ever see him again. He told me that if I didn't get back together with him I'd have another suicide on my hands. He knows how my mother faked the situation and everything, and how much pain that put me through at a young age. I told him this was it and that I'm done with him completely. He proceeded to call me a W***** like my mom and that my dad would be rolling in his grave seeing how I turned out. He also confessed about 30 minutes after sending that text he'd be sleeping with other women as well as my mom and said that they provided more for him than what I ever could. I simply told him to go ruin one of their lives instead. I won't lie and act tough, I feel completely hurt and manipulated that this man did this to me. Everyone will say I should have seen it coming but I really thought we had something special. I was crying throughout all of this and luckily the friends I've made at the shelter were there for me and took care of me. I believe if they weren't there with me throughout all of this I would have done something stupid. So thank you guys as well for encouraging the shelter, that really means a lot to me. My mom recently posted a story of her in a bikini and she wrote, "Love hurts." I simply wrote back the laughing emojis as it's clear she's looking for not only male attention but sympathy. Knowing her she will twist the situation to make herself the victim and me as the bad guy, such as my father ending his life. I really think I'm done with this woman as it's exhausting even trying with her anymore. My whole life she's been a victim, and the problem is everyone around her treats her like one. My auntie always says to me I shouldn't be too hard on her as she's been through so much. What about me? What about all the stuff she's put me through? Sure she's had it hard, but why does it make it okay for her to make my life a living hell? Well, to make it even more perfect, she messaged me back after I sent the laughing emojis. She told me that she was allowed to mourn her relationship with my husband and I couldn't make a sacrifice even if it meant her being happy, and how this is her first real connection since my dad. I sent back the laughing emoji again. She proceeded to post the interaction on her story and proceed to post a quote or something saying, "If only our kids understood that they can hurt us." I simply blocked her after that. Speaking of my auntie, also radio silence from her. I tried messaging her to tell her I was in a shelter just in case she was worried. However, before I even told her she said she couldn't talk, she was at brunch. Considering she knows my situation you would expect she would drop brunch to find out if I'm okay. She also didn't message me back after. I am tempted to go to my cousin's wedding though, which both my mother and auntie are attending, and exposing them to my conservative family. However, I am not that selfish to ruin someone's wedding just to get back at someone. I realized I would just be my mom doing that. I also reached out to my grandma in Tennessee, dad's side. I was hesitant in messaging her as I haven't seen her since I was 15 and we only message happy birthday to each other and that's it. I asked if I could stay with her and told her my situation. However, she said I could stay for a week, after that I'm on my own. She does have 3 of her sons still living at home and they all are big man childs, so she said things are already tight around here so me coming wouldn't help. Anyways, that's the update. I'm in the shelter and am planning to find a place with this girl. I'm also going to figure out legalities sometime. I've just been really busy. I also had to reschedule my GP appointment to next week as just a lot has been happening. Thank you guys so much for reading this, and if anything really significant happens I'll let you guys know. Final update: I 21F found out my husband 33M has been having an affair with my mother, and I don't know where to go from here. Hey, so this will be my final update on everything as I believe the situation has finally come to an end and I'm in a really good place. I left off where I was in a shelter and had made a lot of friends. Well, the girl who I was gonna move somewhere with, she ended up going back to her mom and stepdad, and so I was back to being stuck on what to do. That was until I got a message from my grandma that her mom, my great-grandma, needs someone to care for her. She said that her brother would be happy to have me stay with him as long as I care for my great-grandma. I decided I have nothing left to lose and decided this would be a good gig till I find out what I want to do. I arrived in Miami 3 days ago and have been enjoying it greatly so far. I never really knew my dad's side as he wasn't that close with his family, and after he passed it was hard to keep contact. My great-uncle is very nice and very accommodating, and his wife is really nice. They live in quite a nice part of Miami as well, near the beach. I haven't seen my great-grandma in over 10 years and she was so happy when she saw me. She can't speak that much English as she only really speaks Spanish. I'm aware I said my dad was white, but that was only because I was scared of my identity being revealed, and that wasn't a 100% lie. My father was Cuban and was born and raised in Miami. However, he was most likely a descendant of Spaniards. Anyways, my great-grandma has been teaching me Spanish and as well through the help of translating of my great-uncle's stories about my dad. She told me that he would fall asleep on her lap at family gatherings and how he would make the whole family laugh imitating her accent. It made me tear up seeing all the photos of him as a kid with his whole family. She told me that when he got on drugs and ran away from home, it left everyone in complete distraught. She claimed my grandma would cry every day. My mom never had a relationship with them, and that was her choice. They wanted to meet her actually. They told me that they weren't shocked what happened to me as my dad told them later on my mom would cheat on him all the time with other men. This made me furious as my mom always claimed my dad was her soulmate. I have not heard anything from my mom, however, my cousin's wedding went ahead yesterday as my auntie posted it on Facebook. My mom was there and she seemed completely fine from the photos. The wedding looked boring anyways. My cousin is marrying his first cousin from Pakistan, in-laws side, and no one is smiling. It made me laugh actually seeing my mom with all these people who are deeply religious and conservative. Seeing my mom next to my grandma and other female relatives who wear scarves and are deeply religious, compared to my mom who sleeps with anyone that gives her an ounce of attention really cracks me up. Also no word from my ex-husband, however, his sister sent me a text apologizing on behalf of her and his parents. So yeah, that's the end. I believe I'm taking care of my great-grandma and will work out what I want to do in the meantime. This will most likely, hopefully, be the final update as I believe I'm in a really good place. Stories number 29. I'm legitimately scared of what my brother will be like as an adult. My little brother, 9, is 20 years younger than me. My mother had him at 38 and basically just lets him run the household with no punishment. He screams and cusses at me and my parents regularly. He refuses to say sorry and feels no remorse when in the wrong. On the off chance he does get punished, as in my parents yell at him back, he resorts to choking my mom or saying things like, "I'm going to get a gun and shoot you all." She laughs it off. Meanwhile I'm terrified of the day that he isn't a kid anymore and might be able to actually hurt someone. I really wish my parents would do something about the behavior now, but they'll never correct it as that means they've somehow raised him wrong and they would never admit that. Edit. Just to say, my stepfather is present in the home as well and does a bit more discipline-wise than my mother, but my brother always runs to my mom and gets coddled. IMO my mom pushes the behavior by dismissing it. I have not lived with them for several years, but it's hard to visit because I just flat out don't like being around my little brother. Sounds shitty to say about a kid, but it's the truth. Someone said he's probably being bullied at school. He's not. He has plenty of friends and never complains about anyone making fun of him. He's literally just spoiled and has my mom wrapped around his finger no matter what he does. He has gone so long never hearing the word no, that he can't stand to not have what he wants immediately after asking for it. A good example, we were on vacation a few months ago and he threw a screaming fit and had to be taken back to the cruise ship because my parents refused to buy him a Rolex. A freaking Rolex. No one in my family owns anything that expensive. Stories number 30. The guy I have been dating is married and he said he wanted me as a side chick because I am inferior to him, unlike his wife. I have been working